Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to play something entirely different. First of all, we're going to play in English, which is not that uncommon. But today we're going to play a fantasy game in English, and it's called Daughter of Alba, and it's based on a German system called Midgard, which we have taken. We've also taken the world of Midgard, but adapted it to our own needs. And we're going to play a little bit of an adventure in Alba. For those of you who know English or know Scotland, Alba is the name for Scotland. So the region that we will be playing in is pretty much Scotland during the Middle Ages. So you've got clans, you've got a king. So it's moving from a clan-based society to a feudal society, which leads to quite a lot of political problems sometimes. But there are also several cities which are now vying for supremacy as well. We will not be going near those today or tomorrow, but just so as a background, we are playing in what I would consider the Highlands, and they are pretty devoid of people. There are some, and they live in farmsteads. Most of them belong to a clan whose local chieftain, called Sire or Cyrus if it's a woman, kind of rules the lands but doesn't own them outright, but it's owned by the whole clan, and they basically are the caretaker, and they also need to take care of their liege people. So everybody who lives there needs to be looked after by the local sire, but also in return has to promote the well-being of the clan, which is, they have to provide some of their produce from the fields and animals to the sire, who will then take some of it for providing protection, but also making sure that everyone else gets their fair share. And today I'm again playing with Victoria, who has agreed to play the system which we're both completely unfamiliar with. We've read the book, so that's a first step. We have characters, that's a second step. But other than that, there's just a story. And we may actually not be rolling any dice today because I want to tell a story and not necessarily show a system. So Victoria, you're playing Aisling.
Yeah.
Aisling Nick Ronald, because you're of Clan Donald.
Mm-hmm.
And you live in the Highlands. Tell us a little bit about your character.
Well, I grew up on my own with my father because my mother died shortly after birth of my brother, who also did not make it. So it was basically my father and I together, and he, made sure me growing up knowing how to fight, how to go hunting, how to, learn everything that is urgently needed for survival. But now he decided that it's time for me to stand on my own 2 feet. So I was sent away a bit farther away from home to, basically really learn how to survive. So far it has just been training. I was never really in the force to really take care of myself. But now I am, and
Mm-hmm. Your father is also the sire of Clan Donald in the area where this part of the clan resides.
Mm-hmm.
So you are of the highest status possible because you are the daughter of the sire. And since your brother has died, you would be inheriting the title.
Yeah.
As well as at least the building in which your family resides. And so he has decided to send you away, but in order to be sure that you don't go completely on your own, he's kind of said, it's dangerous, take this, don't go along. And he's sent with you a local priestess of the goddess of, I guess, life and harvest, Varna. And her name is Siobhan, and she is going with you. She also belongs to the same clan as you do, because everyone belongs to the same clan because you all live in the same area. But as a priestess, she has had to leave the clan and is now actually a member of the church. So she's now beholden to her church and no longer to the clan. So her allegiance is to you on a personal level, but not because you are the daughter of the sire and will be the siress at one point in time. So the two of you went even further northwest to the very far reaches of the area that is still Clan Donald. And in there, you have got a cottage, which in those parts is pretty much just a stone building with some grass on top. Possibly no windows, but just a door. And there is basically, when you go inside, there's always a fire burning because it's cold and wet all the time. And you can smell the fire burning. It's this acrid smell of wet grass and whatever coal you can get. Some wood, because the Highlands are not very woody anymore. And it is actually quite a harsh life. But it's the life of the peasant. It's the life that most of your clansmen lead, because Highland clans are poor as mice. So obviously you need to fend for yourself. As a daughter of a sire, you cannot engage in husbandry or growing stuff. The only thing that you could do, and that's what Aisling actually does, what Siobhan does, is she does grow herbs, because as a priestess of Varna, she is actually in Alba, she is more of a healer. And she knows about these things, and this is the service that she gives to you, but also to the people around you. They can come to her, and she actually goes actively to them. She provides, I suppose, the services of a doctor, but also she looks after their spiritual health. And that's essentially what she does most of the day. So you will have to find a way to provide for yourself. So possibly hunting or something like that.
Quite sure hunting would be the way. Also, if I get enough, I have the possibility to trade. So some potatoes for some meat.
Yeah, and things like, you could obviously then also sell the skins of the animals or trade the skins of the animals that you have, and you're making a very good point. There is a barter economy. Most people don't have money, but they give what they have, and then they get something in exchange. And so today is one of those really miserable days, late in the year, not too far away from the longest day of the year. So it's we would say it's probably early December. Pretty much, let's say it's the 5th of December, because that's today. And it's miserable outside. It's not that cold, but the wind is blowing. The wind is howling. You are in a part of the Highlands between two mountains, so the wind is just funneling through.
Right.
And it's raining. And I keep calling her Aisling, but that's you. Siobhan is inside in the house, and she's cooking something. And you're outside as a person approaches, a man. He is wearing a kilt, which is not unusual, and you can tell from the plaid and the tartan that he is of your clan. And he approaches and he says, "Hail! I'm looking for Aisling of Clan Donald."
Greetings, you found her.
He kneels and he presents you with a piece of parchment, and I'm going to show you that piece of parchment because it is actually quite important. Doop doop. I don't know if you can read it, if you can read the font well, because I don't know if it comes out.
Yeah, it's crisp and clear to read.
Okay.
Should
Will
I
you read it
read?
so that people
Yeah.
can... Yeah, okay.
Hail to Ashling, sires of Clan Donald of Dunlevin. Is it called Dunlevin? I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Dunlevin or Dunleavon, both are
Dunleavin,
correct.
okay. It is with great sadness that I must announce the death of your father, Sire Dermond of Clan Donald of Dunlevin, to you, my lady. You have by custom and by blood inherited the lands, the houses, and the duty of care towards the clansmen of Clan Donald of Dunleavin. Make haste to fill the throne your father has left, so that none of your loyal liegemen shall suffer any want.
Yeah.
Duncan MacDonald, steward of Dunleavin Hall. Honestly, I'm quite sure with the first sentence she would have lowered the letter, taking a breath.
Yeah, because you know exactly what it means to be addressed like this, because there is only ever one sire or one siress, and that up until 5 minutes ago was your father.
Yeah.
In your mind.
After a tiny bit, she would pick up the letter again and read the rest, what we just read. Then she would look at the man in front of her. What happened? He was doing fine last time I saw him.
My lady, I don't know. I was sent with this letter. I have no knowledge of the content beyond the fact that your father is dead. The steward sent me.
Well, I don't have much choice, even if my time here is not really over. Can you bring back the message that I will return home as quick as I can?
Of course, my lady. And he bows. He's gotten up in the meantime. He bows and he turns around immediately and at quite great pace jogs away from you.
Ashling would stare after him for a while in thoughts, and then with a big sigh, slowly turn around and go inside of the house.
Okay, you can see Siobhan, and she is stirring. I was going to say a cauldron, but that might give a wrong impression. She's stirring a pot of some stew that she's preparing. You can smell. She's probably put in, I don't know, some root vegetable, because that's what you usually eat, and some potatoes, and maybe a little bit of the hair that you caught yesterday. It has to last for several days. And the thing that permeates, the smell that permeates the hut the most is, of course, the fact that she throws in so many herbs to make it taste interesting. Because also one of the things that isn't very common is salt. So, and the salt that you do have, you use to make meat non-perishable, as it were. So you don't usually put it into your food because it's way too precious for that. Yeah, so she's basically... I'm getting the message that my internet is unstable. Do you still hear me?
I can hear you. You were off for a second, but
Okay.
At the moment I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, brilliant. Then we'll just hope that this doesn't come back. So she's got her back towards... she has her back towards you because she's obviously facing the fireplace and stirring her pot. What do you do?
Probably in the quite low voice. She would be, we will have to pack, or at least I have to pack. I'll leave tomorrow morning.
She stops stirring the pot and she turns around and she says, why?
I'll just hold out a piece of paper. And probably just slump, sitting down in front of the fire.
She reads the letter. And she sighs very loudly. And then she kneels next to you and she says, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say.
Well, that's two of us. I would have thought he would be here for years to come.
How did he die? Was it an accident?
The messenger didn't know. Will you return with me?
Of course I will. I will not leave you alone. I mean, especially not with this. And she holds up the letter. Tomorrow, all right, then we'll pack. I'll make something that we can take with us tomorrow, because we will need food. Because it's going to take us a couple of days. I mean, at least, I don't know, a week.
Probably.
And if we have to stop to hunt, it's going to delay us even more.
Well, we will see what we can find along the way. We can just be as quick as possible, but also be safe as possible. We need to make sure to get there in one piece.
You actually have a horse. She does not, and she also can't ride. You know this. So basically, when you take the horse, it'll be you riding. She will be walking beside you. So, or she can join you on the horse.
She can join me on the horse.
To be a little more quick.
Yeah, that would be the idea. She has to deal with sitting behind me.
That's not a problem. She can do this. She's done it before. No. Okay. So, she puts her hand on your shoulder and squeezes it slightly, and then she says, I'll look after the food, and when you need something, you just let me know.
What time of day is it?
It's probably around 3 in the afternoon, so it's going to get dark quite soon. Sundown is around 3:30 at this stage.
Too late to start hunting. So she will probably just sit there for a while, look into the fire, and then she will go outside and just circle the building to make sure everything is fine, that they leave it in decent condition. And will already prepare and collect and pack the stuff she needs. But she will not say much.
Yeah. Siobhan isn't much of a talker either, which is probably why you get along so well with her, because she is more the quiet type. Unless she's preaching, she's quite a good preacher, actually. And when you get back in, you can, she's already, laid the table, would be an overstatement. She has filled 2 bowls with some hot stew. And she's offering it to you, and she sits down, and she, you and I, you and she can have something to eat. There's also some form of very thin ale, because that's essentially the drink of choice, because the water, unless it's boiled, you don't know.
Yeah.
And she says, well, we still have some milk which we can take with us. That should last another day.
Okay.
I can make some bread tonight, which would be ready by the morning.
That would be good to have. That will hold up for a while.
Yeah. And we still have the hare you shot, so we can cure this meat and put it into salt overnight. That'll last a couple of days then. And other than that,
we will hunt and collect whatever we can find.
And it's going to be carrots. And she points to a bunch of carrots. They're still quite fresh, so it's not going to be a feast, but it will keep us alive. It's going to last.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Make sure to pack some herbs, that at least we can have some tea in the evening.
Yeah. And then after she's finished, she goes outside. She's got a little sickle, which she uses to cut the herbs, and she cuts the herbs, and then she comes back in and she hangs them up to dry overnight, and which is not so difficult because in the smoke. And then she starts to cure the hare. She starts to smoke some of it, and then she starts making dough for bread.
I will go over my weapons just to make sure everything is
Mm-hmm.
fine. So looking at my bow, everything is
Mm-hmm.
well
Mm-hmm.
strapped and oiled.
Yeah, you have 3 weapons. You have a bow, a
Hmm.
long bow. You have a two-handed sword, and you have a long sword.
Okay, so she will also make sure the swords are sharpened and oiled and
Mm-hmm.
also good to go, well
Mm-hmm.
prepared.
You also have chainmail. Well, actually, it's a chain shirt,
Hmm.
so it's not chainmail because I think that's the one that overlaps. It's the one with the little
Yeah,
chain links.
yeah.
Okay, so you've got one of those. With regard to Siobhan, she does not wear armor. However, she has a sickle,
Hmm.
quite a big one, that she uses for hacking. It's like an axe. And she has a small shield, which she wields. So
Good.
all priests and priestesses are always have some weapon for self-defense. That doesn't mean that they are the best warriors, but they can take care of themselves to a certain degree. And so, well, I mean, the sun sets pretty quickly. You light a couple of candles, and then she puts she forms the loaves and she sticks them in the. She has a little kiln type
Hmm.
oven and she puts them in, and yeah, and then she sits there and does what she needs to do. She also starts to pack her own stuff. It's not like you have much because the place is also quite tiny. And then she looks at everything. She says, "Well, I think this is as ready as I'm going to get."
Then let's get some sleep. Early rise tomorrow.
Yeah. And she goes to bed, and you go to bed.
Yeah.
And um, are you able to sleep, or how is it going for you? Because she falls asleep almost immediately.
Quite sure she will not sleep very well. She will drift in and out.
Mm-hmm.
She really wonders on what happened because I imagine her father being at least health wise well the last time she saw him. So she's really curious what happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you do fall asleep at one point and you wake up after too short a night, I would
Hmm.
say, but fairly early. Siobhan says, "I'm going to make breakfast. Why don't you get the horse ready?"
Okay. She will get up. She will stretch. Step outside.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the weather is the same as yesterday.
Yes, it's not nice.
I think she enjoys it a bit because A, it makes you awake,
Mm-hmm.
and B, it fits to her emotions and how she feels quite well.
Mm-hmm.
So she will go over to the horse. We'll give the horse some hay to eat and or
Mm-hmm.
some grass to eat, and we'll prepare it, put a saddle on,
Mm-hmm.
and probably talk to the horse for a while, just like we will have to go back, and you will have to carry us too, but he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then she turns around and goes back inside
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit food, and then to pack and
So
leave.
breakfast is the rest of the stew from last night, served with some bread. She's also taken all of the bread and put it into little bags of linen.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's wrapped it in animal skin to ensure that it doesn't, so kind of like animal skin, it's leather,
It's leather.
so kind of like a leather bag thing, you said, it doesn't get wet. And everything that all perishables have been put in such a place that they can last as long as is humanly possible. And then she goes outside and she puts the stuff on the horse. She also has like a backpack, and you do as well.
Yeah.
And then she says, "Well," and then she dampens the fire and makes sure, and she basically puts
Sand,
earth on it
earth
and
or sand,
sand
yeah.
to ensure that it doesn't do something terrible. And then she says, "Well, I wonder if we'll ever get back here.
I sadly highly doubt it. It has been a good home for us.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's a good home for someone else after us.
So you get up on the horse.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there isn't really a path, so actually you can't gallop or anything. You have to actually walk the horse because it's just too uneven. And during that time, she will actually walk beside you because a walking horse isn't much quicker than a human being walking. And so for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, you just pass through this very rugged landscape and you see the farmsteads of the people that live around you and that you have been living amongst for the last 3 years or so. And then you make it to a road.
Mm-hmm.
And there you can pick up the pace a little.
Okay.
And so this is... so in the beginning, you're just making your way out of the valley that you were in. And then you reach basically a high point. And then before you see a grand open space, which is more like a step.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite flat. But you know that pretty soon it's going to become quite treacherous because this path is now winding its way through a moor. So you've now reached an open moor country, and you can already see that the vegetation is changing. You're seeing typical plants that you find in moors like heather, etc. And the trees that exist are the ones that can actually stand in standing water and still survive. But also the wildlife has changed. So you can see herons now, and those stork-like creatures that stand there on one leg and just fish. And every so often you also see one of the not uncommon eagles that live in the highlands above you, and sometimes they just drop down and you know that they've just found something to eat. Yeah. And so the first day passes without event, and it's time for you to find a place to sleep. And I suppose you try to find a good place, don't you?
We will try a place where we have the chance to at least stay kind of dry. So either under big tree, because at least from time to time there should be at least single trees here and there.
Yeah.
Or either if we can find where it's not really a cave, but where the earth or stone is a bit little bit, where we can be sheltered a bit from the wind and the water.
You are lucky, you do find such a place. So every so often towards the end, Siobhan actually dismounted because she said, well, I'm going to try and collect some firewood or some fire things, some fire twigs. And so she has been walking beside you, and she has been collecting bits and pieces that she knows she can burn, like moss that may have died off and stuff. So she tries to make a fire. It is successful, but it's not the warmest fire you've ever seen. And it's kind of a dreary meal. But it is something nonetheless. It's food.
Yeah.
Because you notice that she's already started rationing the food.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. Do you want to do anything? Do you want to go hunting or something?
I don't think for the first day she would go hunting. We still have a few things, although the question is if she would go hunting. I guess she would leave the horse, bind it up that it's safe, just close to the camp, and will just be sure. I will try to see if I can hunt something. We'll be back in a bit, and she will pick up a bow and some arrows, and then we'll search for something edible, like rabbit or whatever we can find.
Okay, so this would be a good place for rabbits. This is quite clear. I mean, rabbits do live here, and we will see how you do. Because I've just realized that there is no hunting skill in this game, which I find a bit weird.
It is a bit weird, yeah. There's no hunting.
But what we can do is you can roll on survival. So that's how you roll. Is you just take a d20. And you roll it, and in this case, since you are untrained, you add +6 to it, and you need to reach 20 altogether.
Nope, that was a 7. That is definitely not enough.
Okay, so basically you do try, but you are unsuccessful. Maybe it's because the eagles have been ravaging the landscape. You can't find a single hare or rabbit. They are probably too I don't know, they're just not there for you.
Oh, hunting a rabbit with a bow is not the ideal case. Usually you have some time to set up
A little snare.
a snare. Thank you, that was the word. It takes a bit of time, but it was worth a try. She will have a look around just to see if there are any other animals they should be worried about, because they're out in the wilderness. And then she will go back to Siobhan.
You do hear the howling of wolves.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's important that we have the fire going.
Yeah.
And I will return. Be like, no luck today. We need to keep the fire going. Wolves are out there.
Yeah, I can hear them. So, but maybe better luck next time. And so she provides you with food. She has some herself, and then she says, well, I like rain as much as the next person, but at the moment it's kind of annoying.
Well, it's a nice sound to fall asleep to.
That is true.
Why do you get sleep first? I think we need to take watch in turns. We can't both sleep out here.
Yeah, wake me.
Yeah.
And she goes to sleep.
I will just sit in front of the fire, cross-legged, looking around, making sure the horse stays close, well, it's bound up. It can't move too far away. And making also sure the fire is not going out. So from time to time, putting some more wood in there.
Yeah. So essentially, the night, your watch passes without
and then I will wake her up, and then I will curl up, try to sleep.
Yeah, she watches as well, and then she wakes you in the morning and says, breakfast is ready.
Thank you.
And then you have breakfast, and it's still raining, it's still miserable, it's still cold. And you get back on the horse and you travel, and for the next couple of days, it is pretty much the same. You can make 2 more survival rolls, because we'll just cut this a little bit short, because nothing's going to happen except, can we see if you can find something? Nope.
That
and
was
the second
an
one?
8. And that was a 2, so no.
Okay, so you're really unlucky. Maybe it's really because the hares smell you or something.
They know better. The weather is horrible. You just stay inside of your homes.
Yeah, that's true. They're burrowing and they're not coming out. And so after the 4th day, you are now coming towards the woods, which in which the home of your parents, of your, well, basically where Hall Dunleaven lies. And after a while, you see a horse by the side of the road. It's not a wild horse, obviously, but it's got tack on and it's got a saddle on. And as you come closer, you see that there is somebody kneeling next to the horse and feeling its leg.
Can we help you?
It's a man. He looks up. He's maybe 25, 26. Not overly tall, dark hair. very well kept beard, blue eyes, and he looks at you and says, I'm sorry, I didn't see you coming. Yeah, my horse has come up lame, and I really, yeah, well, I can't ride him anymore. I need to go to, well, I think he needs a new horseshoe. But I don't really know my way around here. I'm not from around here, so I don't know. Do you know if there's any settlements, towns or villages near here?
All depends what you call near.
I was afraid you might say that.
But you can go with us for a while. We will pass the next settlement anyhow in this direction, depending on which way you want to go.
At the moment, I don't really care. I just need to take care of my horse, and I can always go back and you know. But I would love to come with you.
I would scan what he's wearing. Do I see any like clan colors or anything, or
No, as a matter of fact, he's actually wearing trousers and a vest. He is not really. He doesn't even look like he's from Alba. He has more of a kind of like an olive colored skin. So he may be from Crusea. Crusea being the land that borders on Alba in the very far south, which is the same as Greece in our world. So he looks Greek, but interesting enough, he's got blue eyes, which is maybe not so Greek, but he doesn't look like he's from even anywhere around here.
And I would look also what kind of weapons does he wear, because I need to make sure that he's not having the fun of murdering us while traveling.
The only thing that you can see is he's got a small knife by his side, maybe this long. So you could use it to cut up some meat. If you wanted to, you could probably stab someone with it, but it's not really a weapon per se.
Okay.
It's a knife. It's not a dagger.
What is someone, not to be rude, like you, doing out here in the wilderness? You're not from around here.
Oh, well, I've been told that the people of Alba are very direct in their approach. And now, as he's talking more, you can actually hear that he's got an accent. And he says, my name is Cyrus. And I come from the land south of here. I'm from Crusea. I'm here to, I was actually here to learn something about Alba. I'm a merchant, and I sell dye. And he looks at you, and of course you are wearing the tartan and colors of your clan, and he says, so that people can make your clothes. And so I was trying to find out what kind of dyes people would require. So I've been traveling around Alba for the last 6 weeks.
On your own, and you're still in one piece. That's impressive.
Well, so far everybody has treated me with great kindness, but I also pay for everything when I go to a place, and when I eat or when I need shelter, I pay for it, and I try to be a good guest.
That's how the people here are. Careful, but if people need help, they get help. Aisling would get off the horse, would also help Siobhan to get off the horse as well.
Yeah.
She will just give the lead to Siobhan, and she would step over and would just, should I have a look at the horse? Maybe I can see what is wrong.
Yes, if absolutely. Please.
And she would kneel next to the horse and would just try to see if she can figure out what is wrong.
Okay, so you put your so first of all, you can see that it's missing one horseshoe. So that would lead to the horse kind of like being a little bit off kilter
Yeah.
as it walks. So that could basically put a strain on it. And when you touch the front, let's say it's the right leg,
Yeah.
you can tell that, and you compare it to the left one, that it's a little bit tight.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's a cramp. But you can't see any wound or any kind of injury at all. Whatever you feel is completely underneath its skin.
Okay. Well, however you managed to lose the horseshoe, you are quite right with what needs to be fixed. She would stand up, would just pat the horse, and would be, oh, by the way, my name is Aisling.
Cirrus of Thalassa.
Aisling is hesitating. She will not give more than the name she gave because she's still sorting out what on earth she is now.
You can... Let's see what you can do. You could actually roll on knowledge geography if you know anything about this.
Let's give it a go. Is it then also D20?
Yeah, and you add 6 to it.
And 6 because it's not on my list.
Yeah.
Well, that is a 15, so I have a 21.
Okay, so when it doesn't matter, you actually succeed. This is the story of your life. You have heard of Thalassa. It is an interesting place in terms of it. It's also known as the city of beggars. So it's not well spoken of. A lot of people consider that it's considered to be a city of anarchy. So it's very different from the orders, from the ordered lifestyle that would prevail within the clans, which are very hierarchical, very stratified. But it is true that there are a lot of merchants there, and they do travel.
Thalassa.
And it's also by the sea. And you know that they can actually, and this is something that you do know, a lot of dyes are made from substances that you get out of sea creatures.
Yeah.
You have never seen those sea creatures. You don't know what they look like, but this is something you've heard.
Yeah. Thalassa is quite a bit away. I've never been there, but I heard quite a few stories.
I have to say that its reputation may be deserved. It was never the same after its second fall. I mean, the first fall, when the Dark Mages were vanquished, was bad enough. But then when the volcano erupted and destroyed what was left of the city, it took a long time for it to re-emerge, and great parts of it are still dilapidated. And yes, it is true that when you go there, you may encounter a demon or two, but I have nothing to do with demons.
That is good to know.
But we have great dyes. And he basically says, wait a moment. And then he goes to his saddlebag and he opens it and he takes out little swaths of basically, little swaths of fabric in different colors. And he shows them to you, and he points out, so there is one that is black, and he says, we get this from a squid, and then there is one that is purple. And he says, well, there are two ways you can get this. One comes from a very, very rare sea snail, and that is very expensive. So that is what you can see here. And then he turns over, because it's like a little bit of a book almost. And this one is also purple, but this is made from crushing little insects that live on what we call the purple tree, which is why it's less expensive. And you can see all kinds of colors, yellow, red, blue, and he says, "Well, this one is very. I've been selling a lot of this one." And he points to green,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not a surprise because a lot of tartans actually have some green in
Yeah,
them.
no.
And of course, black is also quite popular with your people.
Well, the colors look nice. I'm quite sure a lot of people will have use for that.
Yes, I've made a couple of connections, and I'm pretty sure that I will be able to deliver what they're asking for, which is why I was actually on my way south. And it is true, this road, if you were to follow it, would at some point veer south, and then eventually, after a very long journey, actually cross the mountains. Um, but I wasn't going to travel all on horseback. I was going to then take a ship and travel south, because as you also know, Thalassa is in the
Yes.
very south, and it is on
Long
the
way.
sea. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are heading east, and your way, if you follow the road, is east as well for a while. So we should not lose any time. We should use the light of day as long as we can.
Hmm. And he basically takes his horse by the reins, and he follows you, and he leads the horse. Well, he can't ride it, obviously, so he's leading the horse.
We will
And
walk next to him as well, and also Ashling will probably. Oh, sorry, I did not mention. This is Siobhan, my friend.
he bows and he says, "Milady," and she says, "Well, I'm not a lady. I'm a priest." Oh, I'm sorry. And she just smiles.
Being called a lady is not always a bad thing.
She gives you a look. And then you travel on, and then you basically find a place to stay. It's a lot easier to find a good place in the woods, obviously, because
At least we're covered from the rain, and the wolves are not as keen on being in the middle of the woods because it's harder to hunt for them as well.
Mm-hmm. And then you go to sleep. He offers to also watch for a couple of hours.
And before we go to sleep, I will try to go hunting as well, hoping that maybe here also maybe a deer.
Yeah, then give me a roll.
Let's see how it goes. Come on, dice. It's important. It's better, but still not good enough.
Okay.
So
it's quite interesting. I think that that one fails more often when you don't roll like on 3 different ones. You don't have any points that you can spend. It's just
it's something.
It's very different. It's a little bit more like D&D, where you fail rolls a lot more often than you do in DSA.
But if you just have a +6, it's really hard to catch the 20, because with D&D, basically, if you roll above 10, you're quite good. So you have like a 50-50 chances. Here, you don't have a 50-50 chance.
No.
You are
I mean, for you, it's
that.
like a 5 in 20 chance to actually make it. Anything above 14 would be a hit, or 14 even would be a hit.
Yeah.
And so basically, the night passes again uneventfully. And you know that the next day you will be arriving in the place that is your home. And of course, that is a little bit more of a village. So you do know that there is a blacksmith, and you do know that they provide horseshoes. So do you tell Cyrus this?
Yeah, I will tell him that we should reach the next village at probably the end of the day. They definitely have a blacksmith there, so I will probably even say the name of the blacksmith, because I'm quite sure at least this is someone I know, because blacksmiths are also repairing swords if they break and things like that. And they should be able to fix, so you can go on traveling.
Oh, that would be really fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I met you. Without you, I don't know, because I didn't even know where the next settlement was going to be. So that's really helpful. And you arrive, and you point out where the blacksmith is, and then he looks around and he says, "Is there also a place where I can stay tonight?" And as you know, there isn't. There is no inn.
Well, we don't have official places to stay. The question is, we're at our hometown, right?
Yeah, and there is your homestead, which is a little bit. Well, it's actually, considering where you live, it's actually quite big. It's got a tower,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got like it's a medieval kind of castle, which aren't really castles, but more like stone enclosures with a tower on top, and everything is terribly gloomy. And you do have space for about 20 people in the building, and then everyone usually from the surrounding areas can hide behind the wall if needs be.
So we would have space for guests.
You would definitely have space, and you also know that you, as the sire or siress, have to extend. You have to host guests, and you have to extend the welcome to people who travel into the area and who need help, because that's just the way this works. Even if they are from far away, it would not be acceptable to just send them on their merry way, unless they have done something to you.
Yeah, which they haven't.
In which case, you would probably kill them anyway.
Yeah,
but,
they would not need a home anymore.
No, exactly.
When you're done with the blacksmith, you can just... She will point out to her place. Just join us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a place for you to stay overnight, and we can maybe give you some hints where to go tomorrow.
He follows your finger, and as you point towards that house, and he was like, "But that's a castle."
Well, it's my castle, which is weird to say. I have to sort some business, but guests are welcome, and just join us. We'll set you up with...
You are the Archon of this place? And Archon, you don't know that word, and he kneels down immediately.
Please stand up.
And he does stand up, but he is now very...
It's called Sire here, or Siress, and I think I am. I still need to figure out. I got a letter that I'm in charge now. So it's all a bit...
I suppose, congratulations?
Well, it means my father died, so congratulations is not the right word, but...
Oh, I'm so sorry. And he basically kneels down again. He is completely overwhelmed by this.
As I said, just make sure your horse is better, and then just join us. We'll make sure you have a space, and by then maybe I have sorted out a few things. And she will just turn around and motion Siobhan to move on.
Yeah, and Siobhan is holding onto the horse, and then the two of you follow the dirt road, because nothing is paved here. And it's actually a little bit on top of a hill, which makes sense because that's a more defensible place. And there is a huge gate, so two wooden doors. And it's also one of the ones where you have like huge doors that you can open for a car to go through, or somebody on horseback. But then it's also got like one of those little doors inside, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that door has a little bit of a my God, I'm losing my words.
It's like a little thing you open, you can look through, right?
Yeah, exactly, a peephole. Yeah. So what do you do? Because the gate at the moment is closed.
I will just knock, but not like a nice, just like fist against the door. Exactly.
The window opens, and you see the face of a man who's maybe, a man, he's maybe 16, and he looks at you, and he says, "Milady," and he opens the door. And he kneels, obviously, and he says, "Do come in, and let me get the horse." So he's kind of like a little bit in a pickle, because on the one hand he's kneeling, but kneeling, he can't take your horse, so he's conflicted.
She would just be, thank you. It would be very nice if you could just take care of the horse. Still needs a name, but
Yes.
and then she would just move on towards the house.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have any idea whom to turn to get
Well,
any kind of
definitely
information?
The steward, Duncan MacDonald, he's the person who wrote you the letter.
Would he also live in...
He would.
Okay.
He would. So basically, the steward is your father's, or your, as it were, representative whenever you are not around.
Mhm.
So it's not an inheritable title, but it's bestowed on merit.
Okay.
And they would be able to also make certain decisions without you being present and without you having to be consulted. But he also looks after your household in a way. So he makes sure that, you know, the horses are you know, he's like a caretaker.
Yeah. Then before the guy leaves with the horse, she would be like, you know where the steward currently is?
The steward, the last I saw him, he was in the kitchen.
Thank you. And she would then move towards the kitchen, and before she would move, she would turn to Siobhan. If you have something else to do, feel free. If you want to join, feel free as well.
And she just nods and follows you.
Then we will go towards the kitchen.
And the kitchen is very easy to see because smoke is coming from it. It's a separate building, as it were. You can also see stables, which are enclosed. It's not just 4 posts and a roof, but it's actually walled in, and it's all built of stone. So this is actually very solid. And it is also quite old. I mean, this place has been around for, well, as long as you can remember. And judging from your father's stories, his great-great-grandfather built it. So, in the midst of time.
Yeah.
And the kitchen door is open. You can see, well, you know, on the ground. Again, the courtyard isn't paved, so it's basically trodden down dirt. There is hay lying around. You can see ducks. You can see chickens running around. There are some pigs over there. It's dirty. It's smelly. It's unlike where you used to live for the last 3 years, because this is now lots of people, comparatively many people, put into a very small place.
But it's still home. Weird enough.
It's still home.
It feels like coming home, really.
Yeah.
So.
And you can also see a couple of people bustling around, a couple of maids and you know, some of the liege men they aren't slaves, but they're also not free. It's kind of like an in-between situation where they don't have land that they work on. So they are not free. So they basically have to provide services to your family in return for being put up and given a roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, how would I call the steward? Would I call him steward? Would I just call him Duncan? How would the wording be?
You would call him Duncan.
Okay.
And he would call you my lady.
Which is weird.
He will have
it
to
will stay weird for her because she's just like
lady. It is weird, yeah. And so you step inside the kitchen, and there you can see the cook, who you remember quite well. She's she's a woman in her 60s. Her name is Tabitha, of course, MacDonald. And you can see Duncan MacDonald, who you also know and recognize quite easily. He hasn't really changed much in the last 3 years. And the two of them are obviously discussing food.
She would just knock on the door frame.
The two of them stop talking, look towards you, and Tabitha opens her arms and says, my lady, and she kneels down, and Duncan does the same. He doesn't call you Aisling, he says my lady from the very beginning.
Please, both of you stand up, because I'm quite sure she knows them since she was a child, and
Yes,
then she
yeah.
was definitely Aisling, at
Yes,
least for the cook.
Yeah. And for Duncan as well, because everybody was still hoping that there would be a brother.
Yeah.
So, nobody really figured that you would be inheriting this place until such time as both your mother and your brother died. He says, condolences on the death of your father, my lady.
Well, it's a loss for us all. What happened?
Maybe we should go inside.
Let's do that. And I would just probably tap Tabitha on the shoulder or give her a little and then I would follow Duncan.
Siobhan looks a little bit lost.
She would motion Siobhan to follow.
Siobhan
she
follows. But then she stopped for a second and she hands a bag to Tabitha and says, perhaps some of these are of use to you. And Tabitha opens the bag, and of course it's all of the herbs, and she smiles and says, the only thing we don't have is salt. And then she follows you out. He takes you to what would be called a throne room, only it's not as grand as all that. And the throne is basically, there's a very long table. It probably seats around 30 people easily. And then at the head of the table is a chair with a higher back.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. Okay.
Yeah. And on that higher back is the crest of your family, which we can design, which I haven't. It's not the one with the two hamsters. That's where your father would have sat, or the sire before him. And also there would be feasts for because the other members of the high members of the clan, and especially the clan laird, who is the top guy, would also travel to the far-flung reaches, and of course then he has to be hosted and everything. But mostly it's just the family, and then every so often, like when there are religious feast days, of which there are enough to go round, he would invite certain members from the liegemen, and then there would be a lot of, especially drinking, but also feasting and food. And Duncan then stops and looks at you.
She would just stare probably for a few minutes at the chair. And then she would just pull up another chair and sit down, and would just motion for the other two to take place as well.
Okay, so Siobhan deals with the situation a lot better than Duncan does. She just sits down.
Well, she knows Aisling much better, and for Aisling, nothing changed within the last hours between them.
Yeah.
Just sit down, Duncan. Tell me what happened.
Milady, about a triad ago, so that's 3 weeks. Your father started to behave strangely, erratically. He started talking as if there was someone there that he was talking to, and then he would stop talking and listen, and then keep talking. So it was like he was having conversations with someone that only he could see. And this was getting worse and worse. And he was running around the castle, or Dunleven Hall, I should say, as if he was looking for something, or as if somebody was following him. One day I walked in here and I saw him hiding, and he points to a curtain. Basically, that's a curtain with a crest of armor, so it's not really a curtain for a window. And he was hiding behind there. And he gave me such a fright when he suddenly jumped out. And he was saying, "Did you see him? Did you see him, Duncan?" And there was no one there. And then one morning, he didn't come down to have breakfast. So we waited. So I went upstairs. I knocked on his door. There was no answer. And forgive me, my lady, after about 5 minutes, I broke down the door, which was locked from the inside. And when you
Don't
go
be
there,
sorry for that.
you will see the damage still. We decided not to do anything with it until you arrived. And your father was in there in his bed, and his face was completely distorted, like he had seen a ghost, like he had had a great fright. And he was alive, but he wasn't moving. And then, so we called the priest, we called a medic. They did all they could, but they couldn't get him out of this. And then 2 days later, he just died. And that's when I sent the letter. And it must have reached you soon after.
He never told you who he was talking to or who he was afraid of.
No, but then he looks around and he gets up and he closes the door and he comes back and he says, but the things he said, he kept saying, and so what if I killed him? And then he kept saying, I didn't mean to kill him. And then again, so what if I killed him? And stay away from me, you're dead. As if, I mean, your father was a soldier like everyone. He was a warrior. He did go to war.
He killed a few people in his lifetime.
But that seemed like it was a lot more specific than that. It wasn't like killing in battle.
It sounded like
And he did mention slitting someone's throat, and that is not something that your father would do, and especially not on the battlefield. I have not told this to anyone. I believe that he was probably deluded because your father was not like that. He was a good man.
Was something definitely tricked his mind into something. He must have sawn something, if not, he would not talk to someone. But I never heard any stories about him killing anyone except, as you said, in the battlefield.
No. Excuse me. Duncan is younger than your father was. So your father was in his early 60s. This man is 40, so he would not have known your father as a young man.
Yeah.
So that's just for your information. So, but Tabitha would have been around for a long time.
Yeah, also probably a few others that grew up with him.
Yeah.
Maybe we should call together at least 3 or 4 of people we can trust that grew up with him. Maybe they know something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, milady.
But first of all, let's go upstairs and have a look at his room.
Mm-hmm. You go upstairs. Well, at this moment in time, there's a knock on the door.
Probably just in reaction, I will stand up and go to the door, which is probably not the way it should be, but she doesn't care. She would just open the door.
You stand in front of the person that you just met outside at the gate, and he kneels down immediately. He says, "Milady, I didn't mean to disturb you.
Well.
We have a visitor. His name is Cyrus of Thalassa. He said you had invited him."
Yes. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I did forget to note that. He is, well, far-traveled man, and he needs a place to stay overnight. He traveled with us for the last, day.
Very well,
Could you
milady.
arrange, please, that he
I shall
gets a place
arrange
to
quarters
stay?
for him, of
Thank
course,
you
of course.
so much.
And he gets up and he walks away quite quickly, maybe more quickly than you would normally do. And Duncan says to you, "Oh, we're already having guests. That is good. That is good."
I'm not sure, but at least he was a well-behaved companion during travel, and he's from the south. He's a merchant in dye. So if we need dye, he has all the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, well, I suppose we can take a look.
Yeah, I think maybe we should.
Okay.
Let's see what he can offer. As I said, he was a very good companion for traveling. Let's, But first, she would just move towards her father's bedroom.
Okay, so you go upstairs. You know where he sleeps,
Yeah.
or he used to sleep. The door is indeed broken open. So it's now hanging, kind of like. Basically, what he apparently did is he bolted it from the inside and put like one of those wood beams across it. So what they did was they took what looks like an axe to it and just broke down the door. So it's now completely destroyed. It cannot be repaired. They would have to replace it. And in it you see your father's bed. There is a chair. There is a small table. There is a wardrobe, and there is a tapestry on the walls. And his is one of the few rooms that actually has a fireplace. There's no fire in there though at the moment.
She would probably stop basically in the door frame, just looking inside. It feels off because that's usually not a place where it should be. But then she takes a breath, steps inside, and she would first go towards the bed, and then she would just go through the room and see if she can find anything helpful that would explain anything. Does anything look out of place to her? Because I think also from time to time still she seen how this place looks usually.
Well, you are a chip of the old block, because just like you, he didn't have many things. So he basically, he had changes of clothes. So when you open the wardrobe, you can see a couple of, clothes hanging there, 2 kilts. He has boots, so he's one of the very few people who actually have boots. Highland wardrobe as well, so everything that you would expect. He also has a very, very white and starched shirt, which he would wear
Special
for
occasions.
for special occasions, exactly. But he was a man of modest demeanor, so there is nothing grand about this place. You do know that your father could read. He could also write, but he wasn't. It was something that took him a while, and so you wouldn't expect him to have books.
Okay.
So, and there are no books indeed. You can see a couple of hunting trophies. The antlers of a deer, which he must have hunted. And there is also a cabinet, and in it you find, well, that's actually locked, and when you go near it, Duncan actually says, "Oh, let me," and he goes over and he hands you a key.
Thank you. And could you make sure that in the next days someone just repairs, puts in a new door?
Of course, my lady. I was thinking that you were going to take over this room. In this cabinet, you will find your father's weapons.
She would open the cabinet, would just look if everything is still there. She would not touch them. She would just make like, yes, that is his probably quite probably at least one very loved sword, and probably a sword has been in the family.
Yes, indeed, it is. He's got a very old, but very, 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 very well kept sword. It's a claymore, so and it also has like on the on the hilt, you know, where you have like the guard. That's a little bit wider, and you have the crest of the family emblazoned in there as well, on there as well.
Yeah.
And you recognize this as your father's sword, and there is a longbow, which you don't necessarily recognize, but it's not his weapon of choice. So a longbow looks like a longbow, but this longbow is definitely of very good quality. You can tell by looking at the wood. It's not strung, obviously. And that's all, because you do know that your father never really used a two-handed sword, because he would fight from horseback, and of course swinging a two-handed sword,
that's
you would
impossible
probably
from up there.
you would probably lose your balance quite easily and then fall off. Yeah, and that's essentially all there is. And you also see that there is a painting of your mother in this room, which you do recognize because you have been in here before, and it's still where it used to be, over the fireplace.
She will close the cabinet. She will lock it. She will hesitate, but then she will hand the key back to Duncan.
I'd rather you kept them. The key to this room, which I will give to you as soon as the door has been replaced.
Okay. And at least for now, I will not move to the room. I have my room. We will just keep it like it is until I figure out what I want to do.
Of course, my lady.
So, what would be next, Duncan? What do you think?
Next would be to call all of the sires from the other clans around here. There is only 5. And to formally hand you the mantle. And you know what this means, because each sire has a mantle in their tartan that they get put on in a ceremony. And then you have to take an oath to always protect your liege men, and to ensure that the law is enforced, and that the will of the gods is done.
Let's send out for them, that they join us. What do you think? In 3 days, maybe? That gives them time to organize stuff before they leave.
Very well, milady. They have been informed already of your father's demise, and that you will be taking the mantle, but I have also told them that we will let them know when the ceremony will take place. And I believe that 3 days from now will be ample time.
Okay, then let's do that. As I said, it would be good if you would be able to collect 3-4 people that knew him well, especially in his younger years, for a private talk as quickly as possible.
Yes, I will.
And I think for this evening, let's have dinner with our guest.
Very well.
Let's invite people who would be interested in trading dye with him.
Very well, milady. It shall be done.
Thank you.
And he walks out.
Sure.
Siobhan says, "How does it feel to get a yes, milady, it will be done whenever you say something?"
It gives you the feeling of throwing up every time. She would stare at the bed and would probably talk to herself in a low voice, but Siobhan would be able to hear it, like, Father, what happened here? What haunted you?
Do you think it was a haunting?
Well, he talked to someone that was not there. He was scared of someone that was not there, at least not for other people. That kind of sounds like being haunted, either by his own mind or by something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she knows nothing about these things. You both know that ghosts exist. So you both know that ghosts are real,
Yeah.
and that it is also possible there are people who can actually talk to them. Although it is something that borders on the... It's not black magic, but it's something that the gods don't really like when you do it, but it is possible. And if all else fails, it can be done.
Also, then Aisling is like, I did not ask about burial. Burn. How would they? They would not bury. They would probably burn the folks, wouldn't they?
That depends. Some people would actually be burned, but mostly, especially in your case, they would be interred in a tumulus that belongs to your family. Okay. So it's one of those hill graves.
Well, then let's get settled in our normal rooms. And let's meet later on for dinner, because I could imagine that it's definitely already later in the day, because it took us some time to get here.
Yeah, and all of this, of course, took a little bit longer because, between the kneeling and the bowing. And of course, looking at the room would have taken you a while. You give it one last glance, and Siobhan has already walked out and she's waiting for you. And there are a couple of rooms that belong to the family. There's your mother's room, which has not been touched since she passed away.
Yeah.
There is the nursery where your brother would have been.
Also not touched.
And it was also your nursery, so there's a rocking horse in there and all these kinds of things. And then there is your room, and Siobhan actually does have a room because she grew up with you. So she goes to her room, which is at the far end of the corridor, and yours is right beside it, but yours is definitely bigger.
And also, Aisling would just open the door. She would just have a look around. Everything is properly spot on, and she would just.
You can see that there's a little weapons rack, and there is like a wooden longsword and a wooden a two-handed sword, and all of the paraphernalia of somebody who started to train young.
I would guess also, since our stuff was still on the horse, they would have brought it probably upstairs.
Yes, indeed,
right?
They have brought it upstairs, and they managed to distinguish between the two. And your bags are in your room, and her bag is in her room.
But I would put at least... I would guess I would still have the bow on the back and probably the sword, at least the smaller sword, with me.
You have the long sword by your side, and you have your quiver with 20 arrows, and you have your bow over your shoulder. The two-handed sword is, of course, a big, huge weapon, which you would have been tied to the horse, and it would have been on the saddle. And this has also been brought in, and it's been placed very carefully on the desk that is in your room, because obviously you also had to study, and you had a little desk.
Yay, that was always fun.
Well, at least you can read and write.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, it's helpful, but it was definitely never a favorite thing to do.
No, and Siobhan was much better at it.
She would place her weapons on the usual places where they usually are kept. So she would put her bow and quiver in one corner and would lean the sword in the other, and then she would pick up the two-ended sword from the desk because the desk is not the place where it should be, and she would put it in the usual place as well.
Okay.
And then she would step out, close the door, and she would go down to the kitchen.
Okay, you go down to the kitchen and okay, so what do you do there?
I'm looking out if Tabitha is there.
Tabitha is there because somebody needs to prepare the food that you are going to
Is
eat.
she the only one there?
There is also a young girl who's maybe 10, and she's basically, you know, the person who fetches the water and who does this and does that and blah, blah, blah.
Tabitha, dear.
Oh, milady.
Please don't call me that.
I'm so... what? But you are the Cyrus. I have to call you that. I can't call you Ashling anymore.
But I'm still Ashling.
And the little girl is kind of giggling, and she's like, and you, Missy, have something else to do. How about you go and fetch me some water and you bring me a chicken? A live one. And some eggs. And the girl runs out.
Well, let's try. If it's just us here, please call me Ashling. If we are outside in official, then yes. Although it's still feeling totally wrong.
Well, it must feel wrong because I don't think you expected it.
No, I thought I would be out in the wild for a long time longer because honestly, I can't really say I learned quite a bit, but still not enough. But well, I will have to learn here now and learn new things that I was not prepared for so far. Well, I'm here for. You knew my father for a long
Yes.
time.
Yes. I did.
Do you know if he ever. How do I say it properly? Was involved in a killing that was not out in the battlefield. And I don't mean my mother or my brother because, well, it was not killing. Do you remember any stories? Because I don't.
No. I mean, he he would have been he did go to war.
Yeah.
And he would have killed, but everyone does on the battlefield. It's either you or them.
Yeah, no, it must have been something more personal. Someone that was closer, that he knew, not someone you meet on the battlefield and fight.
I don't know. I mean, your father wasn't that kind of man. He was respected. He was kind to his people. He was strict, as you know, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
better than most. But he was he was not he was not a
I know what you mean.
he was not a violent man.
Something tormented him before he died, and it seemed to have been linked to a killing.
But a killing of whom?
We don't know. He never said, at least not that Duncan heard. Did you hear him mutter? But was he even down here at all? Because Duncan said he was behaving really weird the last weeks.
In his Last week I didn't see him at all. He was in the house, he wouldn't come out, he wouldn't come down.
Well, he was scared of something.
That's what Duncan said, but he didn't say much more.
Which is obviously also really not like my father, because if he's scared of something, he will just confront it.
Also, there was very little for him to be scared of. I mean, he was in here. These walls have never been scaled, so he would not have been. And there was no one coming. I mean, nobody had been here. Nobody had come to this house. There was nothing. I don't know what could have caused him being afraid. He didn't have any visitors. There was no war coming. And also, he would have been too old to go to war at this stage. They would not have called him.
No, they wouldn't. Did he have any weird wishes on food and drinks, or was it just a normal?
No, he would not have. I mean, he liked his boar.
Good to know that hasn't changed.
And of course, there was some boar that he didn't go boar hunting in his last years because it is, as you know, very, very dangerous. But there was some boar that had been, there had been a hunt, and some of the clansmen had hunted down, I think 3 boar. And so he got his share as is required. And so I prepared that for him. But everyone had some of it, so I doubt that it was the boar.
No, it was not. I have no idea. But it's a weird happening. He was not really sick.
No, he wasn't, at least not as far as I could tell. I mean, I would see him every day because, he would come down and, he would discuss food and meals and, also make sure that we weren't wanting for anything. And as you know, once a week, I would go upstairs with the books and I would tell him how much we had of what and what we required, and if I needed money to buy it or if we had something to trade for it. And he was his usual self, and then suddenly something happened, and I don't know what. But it wasn't the boar. She's really kind of like, wondering. Oh,
no,
because all of the herbs are the herbs that I always use.
If he was not the only one eating the food, everyone else is fine. And honestly, your food is delicious. You are not getting sick of that. I missed it quite a bit, I have to say, being out there.
Yeah, that Siobhan never was a really good cook. She was more the herb girl.
She is cooking well, but she is not as experienced as you are. Give her a few years to come. Maybe you can teach her a few things more if she's interested.
Well, if she is staying with you, then I would be delighted.
At least at the moment, we will stick together. I'm glad to have someone around that treats me like usual.
I'm afraid that you cannot expect anyone else to treat you like that because everything has changed.
And there are the rules, I know. Well, let's see. At least we will have company this evening.
Oh yes, I heard we have a guest.
Yes, he's from the south. Quite a nice young man.
From the south?
He's a merchant. He's selling dye.
Oh.
Quite a variety of colors. We had some time to talk on the way here. We found him in the woods. Unbelievable that he survived that. His horse lost a horseshoe and he had troubles and he didn't even know where to go. It was surprising that he was still in one piece and not eaten by wolves by now, but
The gods must have watched over him.
Probably. Well, he seems to be a good-hearted guy, so the gods are probably in favor of that. And the colors of the dye look quite nice, I have to say. He showed us a few examples.
I'm pretty sure that the weavers will appreciate this, because they're always looking for dyes for our tartans, and I believe that several of the more affluent clansmen will probably look for some clothes to wear at the ceremony.
Yeah. Well,
so when is the ceremony going to be,
in
my lady?
3 days.
Then I will have to plan a meal.
Oh god, we'll probably even have to do some hunting tomorrow. Although that might be fun. Although
you will have to do some hunting, and you will have to go out amongst the people to show them that you're here. Well, you will have to talk to lots of people tomorrow, my lady, my Aisling.
Great. Well, I know most of them, so it shouldn't be that hard. I just hope the hunting...
At least you're the spitting image of your father. That's definitely going to help silence anyone who has any doubts.
Let's hope so. And let's hope the hunting goes better than on the way back home, because oh boy, that was not successful. Thank goodness we had a successful hunting before we left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will leave you to your work. Thank you so much for taking time, and I have to say, even if it's in this not very happy reasoning, I'm glad to be back home.
And I'm glad to have you home. I always thought it was wrong of your father to send you away, and that far too. I mean, how long did it take you even to get down here? A week?
Not really, but close to a week.
I always said to him, that girl up there, the 2 girls up there, what have you been thinking?
Well, he had the thinking that I should learn how the simple people live to understand what they need. And honestly, for that, the lesson was definitely well. Because it's a hard life out there. Much harder than in here.
Well then, tomorrow you can prove what you have learned.
Great. Well, I knew this would come one day. I just arrived earlier than expected.
Yeah.
But
sometimes we don't have a choice. And we certainly do not have a say in the matter of the gods.
We can just make the best out of it. I think that's what is in our power to do.
And do you want to... I'm pretty sure you want to lay flowers at his grave?
Yes. I should, shouldn't I?
I guess a lot of people would expect you to do that.
She will take another deep breath, a lot in the last days, and she would move towards... It's the place where he was buried. Is it far away, or is it like at the edge of the little settling?
Yeah, there is actually there is a mound that isn't too far away from where you are. It's a little bit in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also a shrine of the goddess Varna there, which happens to be the goddess of that your friend is dedicated to.
How late in the day is it? Would we have enough time with a horse to get there and back?
Yeah.
Okay.
In daylight as well.
Then she would sprint upstairs and would...
2 people who are basically washing the floors, maids, are completely shocked by the fact that their lady is now behaving so unladylike and sprinting around the place, and one of them actually drops the she has kind of like a sponge kind of thing, and it's more like a brush and she drops it into the water, and some of it splashes out. My lady, you gave me such a fright.
So sorry. I'm still, well, feeling like a child being at home. I just need to speed up. Thank you for your good work. And then she would just move on,
And you can hear them giggling behind your back.
This is fine for her. And then she would knock at Siobhan's door.
Come.
She would just open the door and would stick her head inside.
You see Siobhan kneeling, but not to you. She's actually praying. Oh, it's you. How did it go? And she gets up.
Well, Tabitha has no idea what he saw or what he was talking about. But, well, she pointed out quite the important thing. I should visit his grave. Would you like to join? The shrine is right next by.
Even if it wasn't there, I would join you, and you know that. And she gets up and she picks up a cloak.
Mm-hmm. I would probably go into my room and would grab a cloak as well, because it's not nice outside.
And she is actually now wearing, as you can see, for the first time in a long time, she is wearing her official garment, which is a cloak in green, which has little ears of corn on it, which symbolize the goddess that she worships and she's dedicated to, and it basically marks her out clearly as a priestess of honor.
And then we would walk downstairs, and Aisling would go for the stable.
Yeah, there's a stable boy there.
And halfway she would remember that she should ask the stable boy if he could prepare the horse.
And with a lot of miladies and bowing, he basically prepares the horse for you. His name is Jonathan, which is not a Scottish name, but hey, who cares? Jonathan the stable boy. The page of names is filling up quickly.
Yeah.
And he leads the horse outside. You can see that actually the horse has been completely clean. Somebody has looked after the horseshoes. You know, they have done something with the hoofs as well. They have polished the hoofs.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the horse is like, and it actually seems pleased to see you. And he says, I just gave him an apple because I didn't know that you were going to pick him up. And then he hands you an apple just in case you want to give him one too.
Thank you very much. And you did a great job of taking care of him.
He beams at you.
And
Thank you, milady.
She would just scratch the horse on the nose. Is it called the nose in English? Not sure.
I think it is. Maybe even because it's quite long, it's probably also the face.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then she would probably take a bite out of the apple and then would give the horse the other half.
The horse eyes you kind of like,
what dare you?
What's with not giving me my fair share? But he then basically just opens his mouth and in one go, the apple's gone.
And then I will get up the horse and I will hand out or reach out for Siobhan to help her get up behind me.
And you have practiced this before, so she just basically takes your hand, she jumps, you pull, and she swings over the horse and sits behind you, holds on to you, and the two of you are off.
Yeah, we are going for the crypt and the shrine.
And here we take a short bio break, and then we'll get back to see what happens when you reach the crypt.
Let's do that.
Okay. So, hello and welcome back. Aisling and her horse Dodom, together with Siobhan, are making their way to the crypt of the family, of the clan Donalds of Dunleaven. And it's basically, you know exactly where it is. It's a little bit in the woods, obviously, and you ride out of the village, and a little bit further. You actually have to go back where you came, so it's a little bit to the north of where you came, and then you have to take a left, and then there is a clearing in the woods, an artificial clearing that was made to accommodate the tumulus, and there is the crypt. It's about probably, I would say, 4 meters high at the crest, and it's got a door, and it's rather long, and there is a shrine to Varna, and you can see that people have placed flowers both on the shrine as is normal, but also near the entrance of the crypt. Yeah, and they're the normal traditional flowers that you would give in these parts to the dead. Siobhan dismounts and walks over to the shrine and prays a little bit, and basically then cleans the shrine a little bit and rearranges the flowers a little bit, and then she turns towards the crypt.
Meanwhile, I would have gotten off the horse, just found a place where I could tie it to that it's not walking off. And I would be like, I don't have flowers. She would look around. It's winter time. It's hard enough to find any kind of flowers in this time of day. Would she be able... I'm not sure.
It's 29. You do find some. You find some holly.
Okay.
So
she will just use a knife. She probably also have a small knife, just
Of
utility
course you
knife
do.
at her belt, and
Yeah.
would cut off some of the holly, and would be like, okay, and has to do, and then she would go towards the crypt as well.
So, and the crypt has a door made of wood, of very, very solid wood, with metal bindings, and yeah, it's closed and locked. If you try, you will notice that it's locked.
She would just take a few minutes. She would probably kneel in front of the crypt, and more in her mind would probably ask, like, into the void, like, Father, what on earth happened? And after some time, she would place down the holly amongst the other flowers that are there, and would just whisper, I will try to make you proud. And then she would stand back up.
Okay. During all of this, Siobhan has been standing behind you a little bit, slightly behind you, and has been completely quiet and has been watching you. And as you get up and turn around, she looks at you and she says, "Did he answer?"
No, which is probably a good sign, not a bad one. Thinking about what or how he behaved before he died. He trained me his whole life for this, so I can just try my best to fill up his very big shoes and make him and my ancestors proud and keep our people safe.
I think we should return now, because you have a dinner to attend tonight.
We should. And yeah, we'll get back on the horse.
And you ride back. And now word has gotten out that you have arrived. And as you ride back, there are people, and you can see that people are basically standing in their doorways to kind of watch you come back, because obviously people have realized where you have gone, and you hear a lot of miladies and a lot of people kneeling by the road in the dirt, and yeah, and looking at you and looking to you as well for comfort or help or whatever.
She will probably greet a few people, say a lot of thank you along the way. Then, so the way back takes a lot longer than the way to the crypt. And but she will not really stop. She will slow down, obviously, but she will just move on
Hmm.
because she still has not really the idea what to do.
Hmm. You arrive back. You are let in. The stable boy runs towards you, takes the horse, and leads Stodham away. And yeah, and then Duncan shows up and he says, "All is ready for your dinner with your guest in 1 hour. I have been trying to find other people that knew your father in his younger years. Uh, uh, and I found something interesting. An old man. I didn't know him, but he used to be a hunter. He now lives down in the village.
Hmm.
Um, he told me that your father was friends with the son of Clan Ranald. His name was Rory. Until Rory died or vanished, he was declared dead after a year. And what I didn't know was that remember that ruin on the other side of the hill, and you do remember that there
Hmm.
is a ruined house, a ruined hall like yours.
Yeah.
That is Clan Ranald's hall. Your father inherited everything.
That is definitely news. We played in the ruins as child.
Yes, of course you would. Everyone does. We tell the children not to go there, but will they ever listen? And and Siobhan is kind of giggling.
That's the loveliness about children. They don't care as much about the world. They just enjoy it. Father never said that. That's a quite important thing of the history that I should have known.
Maybe he meant to tell you, but never had the time. Apparently, the clan is now extinct. Clan Ranald no longer exists. At least not here. Maybe they have lands elsewhere, but none are left here.
That sounds like a possible, though horrible, explanation on what my father talked about in his fogged mind.
You're thinking, no, he would not kill his friend.
Until you know the reasons, you never know what someone would do and would not do to survive or save someone else or protect someone else. I'm not sure he would, honestly. The father I knew would never do that.
No, and the sire I knew wouldn't do that either. No, you can put this thought out of your mind straight away, milady. This is not what happened. This is not what happened. And you can tell that he is absolutely adamant, and in his mind there is no doubt that your father would not have done anything like that, ever.
He would clearly see that Ashling is not putting this thought by side. This is. She's still thinking this over. She loved her father. He was a really good man, but young men, as well as women, do things that are stupid and hot headed. And she could imagine her father being a hot-headed guy when he was younger. Especially during a time maybe where he was still not in responsibility, but his father was. So for her, it's not completely unthinkable.
Mm-hmm.
It's more hope that this can't be true, but something is nagging her about this because it fits so perfectly into what Duncan said, what her father was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, let's leave it with that. Duncan, could you inform our guest that we will have dinner then in about an hour?
Of course, my lady, I will.
Thank you so much.
And you, so what do you do? Do you go back to your room? Do you?
Yeah, I would go upstairs. Probably would not say much, except also turning to Sinead.
Siobhan.
Siobhan. Sinead is the wrong character.
Sinead is the other one.
Other one. Siobhan. You're obviously invited for later on, right? I don't have to say that.
She just nods. She says, I was kind of thinking that this might be the case.
Good. Glad to have you by my side. Well, let's get a few minutes of rest before we go downstairs.
Yes, indeed. And I will have to change. I don't want to wear this robe when we're having dinner guests.
Yeah. And I guess also Aisling would change clothes because she has more traveling clothes on at the moment.
Yeah.
She would change into something that is more for inside.
It's more regal. Yeah,
Mhm.
because you are, I mean, it's caked with mud. It's dirty. You have been on the road for almost a week.
Wet.
It's
because
it's
the
wet.
rain and the weather.
And you do have spare clothes. You brought some with you, the few that you had, but there is also clothes still here. Oh look, and there's a dress, and it still fits, which is not a surprise because obviously, if anything, you have become a lot thinner and have put on a lot more muscle. So there's a very lovely dress.
She would wear the dress. I think she would be fine for a dress inside. She would not wear a dress outside because it's just impractical. But for inside, she grew up wearing dresses.
Yeah.
So she would just put it on. She would probably be like, oh, it's a bit tight around the shoulder and arms.
Yes.
So we maybe should have get this changed a bit. And she will remember to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
And then she would probably just brush her hair quickly, tie it back, and then would go downstairs when it's time to go downstairs.
Siobhan is actually already downstairs, and she is chatting with Tabitha and helping her. You know, like a little bit. Tabitha is trying to prevent her from doing this, but Siobhan is a priestess. You can't tell her much because she simply doesn't pay any attention to what people say.
She does whatever she thinks is right to do.
And she basically, and they talk, you can hear that they're talking about herbs and about using celery and root vegetables and how to make stew and, you know, and how difficult it is to make do without salt. And she says that and you hear her say, if we ever go back there, I will take 3 bags of salt. I will get a donkey full of salt.
The two will probably hear a chuckle from Aisling behind them.
And Tabitha turns around and she says, and she looks at you, stares at you, and then she turns to Siobhan. You're quite right, my girl. You are quite right. Salt is really the salt of the earth, as the saying goes. You cannot do a good cuisine without salt. And of course, you need it to cure meat, etc. And then she lists all kinds of things to pickle and blah blah blah. So the two of them have found each other. So obviously. Yeah, and they agree that when you go back, interestingly enough, it's never about if, but it's always about when you go back. On Siobhan's side, but it's more about if you go back on Tabitha's side. That she will be given a donkey full of salt. So essentially, a donkey that can carry the salt, not
the
a donkey
salt,
made of salt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Would the dinner would be, since we have guests, would it be also at this large table, or would
It would,
be?
because that's the only table that is available.
I would
But the way,
imagine.
yeah, so it has been laid. So there is your place has been set, and that's the big chair.
Yeah, she was afraid so she would go inside. The question is already anyone there?
No, there's just the two of them debating salt.
She would go inside and she would move her plate and.
But milady,
cup.
this will not do.
And
Siobhan is standing there saying, I have to agree.
I'm still not officially the one. Until we have the official thing, I will not sit on that chair.
Milady, your father will be rolling in his grave if I'm not treating you the way you should be treated. But I will not interfere. If you move that plate, then on your head be it.
My decision. She will move the plate. She will make sure that the chair is empty, that obviously no one is sitting there. Poor Tabitha having a heart attack.
She's keeping her composure, and so is Siobhan. Siobhan is on the verge of having nervous giggles, and Tabitha is on the verge of huffing out of the room. Yeah. They both keep their cool.
It's my saying.
Yes.
I'm the queen. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you kind of are. Yeah. So, and then Tabitha leaves, and she says, "The food will be on the table in 10 minutes.
Thank
and
you.
there will be beer with it, strong ale.
Awesome.
And and then the two of you are on your own, and then she says, if everything I remember about your father is correct, you are so much like him. It's not just the face.
Well, I'm definitely my father's daughter. I can't deny that. And he would not roll in his grave. He would do exactly the same.
He probably would. Oh, and there's your guest, and in steps Cyrus, and he knocks on the open door. Milady?
Come in, Cyrus. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And she would probably walk over and reach out the hand.
He takes your hand, he kisses it, and he says, well, I have to say that your castle is very impressive.
Well, my father and my ancestors took a lot of pride in setting this up and taking care of this. Welcome.
Well, it is very,
now officially
very well kept.
To our place. And now official introduce myself. Aisling Donald of Dunleven. And welcome to our place. You're a very welcome guest. Feel at home.
Thank you very much. I accept your hospitality. And thank you very much for the room that you've given me. It is amazing. It's got a fireplace.
I'm glad they're giving you the good room. I hoped so. And
the tapestries, they are so colorful. I do not actually think you need to buy anything from me if you've got these dyes available to you.
Well, my ancestors were good in trading here and there, but I'm quite sure that the people here can use more dye because there's always need for new quilts and blankets and whatever is needed in our clan colors. or other colors.
He smiles at you.
So we definitely, if you're up for at least staying tomorrow as well, we will see if we can make some trading or prepare some trading with you.
I would really like that, but I feel it's almost too much to impose upon you because you have been so kind already. You took me here, you helped me with my horse. He's being shod even tonight, and the blacksmith said he would probably be able to travel again the day after tomorrow. They've given him some ointment to relieve the stress on his leg, and you have done so much already. I don't even know how to repay you, milady.
You don't have to repay me, just be here, be the welcome guest, and as you were the very nice travel companion for us too. And yeah, let's see if we can do some trading. Trading is always a win-win for both sides, isn't it? So
I would hope so. I would hope so. I would be glad to talk to the merchants of this place and to see if there is anything that I can offer them.
I'll talk to the steward. He wants to. He will ask around and see if we can organize something.
Thank you so much. And at this moment, in walks Tabitha, but she doesn't. She is carrying. Um, it's a small barrel that you can put on the table, and it's got like a little tap in it. And then there are a couple of like kitchen helps, and they basically bring in the food. There is meat,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like beef, and there is potatoes, and there is some root vegetables, and it is very hearty food. And yeah, you now realize that you have missed salt as well, because this food is salted. It contains salt, and not too much, but it does taste different. And yeah, and then the ale is apparently homebrewed, and it is quite strong. So unlike the beer that you would have had where you were staying the last 3 years, this is quite strong. And your guest Cyrus is, oh, this is quite strong. I will just have to pace myself, I suppose.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to go if you don't want to wake up with headaches tomorrow morning.
Oh no, that would not do. If I'm to meet possible trading partners, I need to look my best, and I need to be my best.
That will be easy for you, I would guess, as far as I learned to know you. Would Duncan join us as well?
Unless you want him there, then you can ask for him, but not normally.
Okay. I think she would invite him because
Mm-hmm.
if it's also talking about the world
Mm-hmm.
there and trading, I could imagine he would be interested as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you ask. There's always a footman available,
Okay.
and
I
you.
think she would have made that clear beforehand, so
Mm-hmm.
Duncan
Okay,
would have known that
so
he would be
so
wanted
Duncan
there.
is here. There is a plate, and the table is laid for him as well, and he is there, and he is well, he is a very pleasant man. I mean, he's a very nice man. So you have conversations with Cyrus, and so it is, as far as is possible. It's a pleasant evening, and Cyrus tells you a little bit about where he is from, and he asks a little bit about where you are from, because he gathers that you were traveling here and had been living somewhere else. And then Duncan tells a little bit about what has been happening these last 3 years, that there was a very severe winter, and that it was so harsh that even the river froze over, and that kind of thing. Um, and so the evening passes. The food is really good. And for the first time in possibly months, ever since the summer went away, you do not have to ration yourself, so you can actually eat as much as you like, and you don't feel you need to stay hungry because you may need this tomorrow.
She will still eat just enough that she needs
Mm-hmm.
to eat. She will
Yeah.
not be overboard, because that
Mm-hmm.
is definitely something that she learned. Be
Mm-hmm.
resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you have the chance to get a full belly, use it, but don't overdo it, because
Mm-hmm.
others will be happy for that food as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or you
Yeah.
can reuse it the next day.
Yes, you can.
And I think in
Mm-hmm.
between, Ash would just from time to time look at the empty chair
Mm-hmm.
and probably more listen to the talking
Mm-hmm.
happening between then Duncan and Silas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a very interesting story. So he tells about Crisea and what it's like there. So you learn it's actually not a country per se. Well, yes, it is, and no, it isn't, because it's actually different city states, which all speak the same language, but which are quite separate. They have their own laws. They're quite often they are rivals in many ways, for fishing, for hunting, and there is every so often a little skirmish between them. But the one thing that they do have in common is they all seem to worship the same gods. So that's this, and the language are the two common factors.
Sounds like an interesting place to grow up and live.
He smiles and he says, "Well, of course I'm biased, milady, but I can say that I really like my home, and I'm looking forward to going back."
I can imagine so. Also, maybe the weather is probably also a bit different than here.
And he says, "Yes, different is the right word.
So less rain, less
A
being
lot
cold.
a lot less rain and a lot warmer, also in winter."
Sounds like a nice place to be.
Yes, I really like it, but I think that we have something that you don't. We have droughts. I don't think you have droughts here, do you?
No, we don't.
That can sometimes be devastating if there is no harvest. But thanks be to the new goddess, that these are very and her son Vridelin, that these are very rare, those droughts.
Thank goodness for their support. And I have to say, you get used to the bad weather here, and it kind of just feels like it's just where it is. And yeah,
I can
as you
imagine.
said, it helps with at least being able to have a harvest without problems if it's not too cold.
Yeah, I suppose that the gods have been the gods give and the gods take.
They do. At weirdest times and weirdest ways.
And then after about, I don't know, maybe 3 hours, Cyrus says, uh, "May I excuse myself? It's been quite a long day, and I would really like to go and get some rest."
For sure. And as I said, the offer still stands. Please stay longer.
"Thank you so much, milady." And he bows and he
Good night.
leaves. "Good night. Sleep well." And he walks away and closes the door behind himself.
Well, Duncan, what do you think of him?
Well, he seems like a nice man. I am really curious about his wares. I mean, dyes are something that we find difficult to come by, and especially in certain colors. Purple, for example, is something that we find very difficult to come by. So if he can give us some of this, I'm pretty sure that the weavers will pay um, a good gold coin for that.
Let's see. Let's see. But the gods definitely sent us a quite surprisingly nice travel companion along the way.
Well, the gods knew you needed one, and they sent one that was like you.
He definitely needed some help. You can say that. Well, I think I'll go to bed as well.
Hmm.
Tomorrow will be another long day coming up.
Hmm. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah,
And
she
as
would
you
stand up and leave.
leave, the footman actually opens the door for you. Says "Milady," and what you know will happen next is he's going to get somebody to clear the table.
Mm-hmm.
And Siobhan is right behind you, and she says, "Well, so now you're back here, and this is your first night in this house as the ruler of this place. Even though the ceremony hasn't happened, you can see everybody's already seeing you as that."
Which is probably the right thing to do. But yeah. Well, it's still my bed, it's still my home. That hasn't changed.
You do know what happens when a clan loses the head and they don't find any replacement. The clan
Yes.
dies.
I know I have to step up to this. I just need at least a few hours to adjust to this, because this is weird, even though I knew it would become one day.
Yeah, it's just important that you do the adjustment when nobody's looking.
Understood. Thank you
And
so
she
much.
gives you a hug, and then she says, "Sometimes love is tough."
It is. It is, but I'm thankful for your help. And you know, you can always speak freely to me.
Yes, and I will when the time comes.
Thank you so much, and good night.
And may Varna bless your sleep.
And yours as well. And yeah, then we get some sleep.
And you go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, she goes to her room, and you can see that she. I mean, there are candles everywhere. So and she obviously lights a candle. You can see this, although the doors are very good. You can still see some lights. And if you listen really hard, you don't even have to listen that hard. She is reciting psalms, so she's praying.
Which is not surprising. I don't even have to listen. I would know she would do
you
that.
You would know that she does that, yes. Yeah, and so you go to your bed, or you go to your room, let's say. Is there anything you want to do? Anywhere you want to go? Anything you want to check out? You've got a whole castle.
I think the only thing that she would do would also just get into her nightgown and would just plonk onto the bed, because I'm quite sure she feels drained of this.
Mm-hmm.
And will just fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You fall asleep. Suddenly, you can hear, "Aisling, Aisling, Aisling, wake up."
Can she open just one? Well, first of all, before she opens an eye, she would try to think if she knows who is talking to her, if she remembers the voice.
It's your father.
With that, she would just probably, with a blink of an eye, just sit straight up and would look around.
And you see before you something that is best described as the astral body of your father. So it's like, it looks very much like your father, like you remember him, but changed. He looks older. And he is kind of incorporeal. So he doesn't seem to have any physical presence.
So
although he's there and you can see
he's there,
him.
but I can basically still see something behind him.
You can see through him.
Yeah.
He's kind of like see-through, yes.
Yeah.
And he says, "Aisling."
She would probably move a bit back in her bed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably whispering to herself, like,
What have you done? Why? You brought him here? Why did you do that?
Who did I brought here?
He looks around. "Someone's coming. I need to leave. You need to get rid of him."
Rid of whom? And who is coming?
And he looks around like somebody who is hearing something behind himself, And he's like, I need to leave, and he just vanishes.
She would just stare into the nothingness now of the room. Would probably look outside carefully to see. It's probably still in the middle of the night.
Yes, it is. Yes, yeah. It's there are no clocks or watches at that stage, so you don't really know. But when you look outside, it's still deepest, darkest night.
She would. I would imagine they would have candles that you can really carry around.
Oh yes, there are.
The ones she would light one. Just wanted to say turn it on. No, you don't turn on a candle. You light a candle, Victoria. It doesn't have an on and off switch. She would light it, and she would just probably not trying to make any noise. She doesn't want to wake anyone up, but she would open the door to from a room outside.
Yeah.
And she would tiptoe over to the room of her father, and she would obviously... No, she doesn't need a key because the door is still broken.
No, the door is still hanging open.
Yeah,
yes.
so she didn't take the key. She just walks over.
Okay, so the room is as you left it. The door is still broken down, although it has been, its splinters and everything, and all the rest has now been removed. And so that probably in the morning a carpenter can come and replace it.
Yeah, she would step inside. Would probably sit down on the foot end of the bed.
Yeah.
And would, in a very low voice, just say, I am lost. I don't know who you're scared of. I need more information. And she would just look around and wait for a while if anything happens.
Okay.
She would just be sitting there with a candle, would just basically once ask this question and then just sit and wait and listen and look around.
Okay. Let's see what you could do here. Can you make a roll on... What would be good? I suppose you could roll on, well, it's Wahrnehmung in German, so yeah, perception.
Yeah.
And you have a +6 to this roll.
That one I have on my character sheet with
You
a
do?
+6.
Yeah.
Was it? I need other die. This D20 is getting on my nerves. But it definitely was not a success. I rolled a 6. That is not nearly 220.
Yeah, okay. So you see nothing. What do you want to do? Also, you don't hear anything.
She would just sit there for a while. And then would give another sigh, because that seems to be a new hobby, and would go back to her bedroom.
Okay, so you go back to your bedroom, and what do you do? Do you go to sleep? Do you, I don't know.
She would probably stand a few seconds in front of Siobhan's door.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm quite sure she sees no light inside anymore. Siobhan is quite sure asleep, isn't she?
Let's see. With a 30, she's not.
Then I will knock at her door.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You hear her voice saying, "Come."
She will just open the door. Sorry to disturb you this late.
What is it?
She will slip inside and close the door behind her. And probably just basically slide down, leaning against the door, just sitting then on the floor cross-legged.
What's wrong?
I just saw my father.
You saw your father.
Well, a ghost thing like father.
Are you sure it wasn't a dream?
No, I was awake.
Did he say anything?
Well, first he called out my name. That's what woke me up. With a half a heart attack. And he was standing in front of me. He was like, "You brought him here. I need to, or that I should get rid of him." And then he was scared and said he was coming. And with my question on who was coming and who I did bring here, he just poof, vanished. What is happening? Is this a curse of the family that we go insane?
I highly doubt that you're going insane, Ash.
It feels like it.
It may feel like it, but I highly doubt that you're going insane.
The only one we brought here was Silas. And I don't see how he should be scared of that.
Well, Silas is from.
Man.
Silas is from. I mean, your father. I mean, he is very young. He's like what, 30? I doubt that your father even knew him.
And he hasn't been here. Duncan would have known if Silas would have been here before.
You're right. I mean, Duncan didn't mention anyone ever coming to sell dye.
No.
And it seems like that's all that Silas sells.
Also, Silas hasn't been here before, based on what he said, so... What is happening here? Or what happened before we came back?
I don't know. But maybe you should go back to sleep and maybe your father will come again. I can watch over you.
Well, I'm not scared of him.
No, of course you're not scared of him. That's not what I meant. But then there's somebody else there.
The question is if he will show up then.
Well, I don't know. But, I mean, he seemed... If what you're saying is right, then he has a message that he wants to give you.
Then he should give the message and not run off. I never seen him scared like that. And he looked old.
Well, you haven't seen him in 3 years, have you?
He turned old a lot over the last 3 years.
You think older than is natural?
I'm not sure. Much older than I remember him last time I saw him. But that might be a trick of mine. I'll just go back to sleep. And I'm honestly not sure if I hope that he shows up. I'd rather just have a restful night. If this happens again, I might have to talk to someone who knows about ghosts and things.
Well, you could talk to a priest of the god of the dead.
Great.
And then she steps forward. You're still slumped. She kneels down beside you and she puts her finger between your eyes. And she gives you a blessing.
Okay.
So it means that for the next several hours, you have a +1 to everything. So that's in game terms what the blessing bestows upon you.
Well, thank you so much. Sorry, I just had to tell someone. And I'm surely not talking about that to Duncan, because he would just think, great, the next one is going insane.
And she looks into your eyes and she says, believe me, you are not going insane. I would be able to tell.
Let's still keep it between us.
Of course.
Also, if I really visit the priest, we need to keep it. Well, can you keep anything secret around here? It's quite impossible, but I can't visit her on basically the first day of me being responsible of all of this.
Well, if you walk around looking like that, you can't. What you have to do is you have to wear something different, and we will have to wait for nobody to be there, and we will find a way to sneak you out of this castle, if that's what you need. But you shouldn't take the horse. That gives everything away.
Yeah, it does. He sticks out. Pretty boy. Well, I will try to get some sleep. As I said, sorry for keeping you awake a bit longer, but you should get some sleep as well.
Oh, and she points to a book by her bed and she says, actually, I was reading. It's a nice story. It's a fairy tale. I'll tell it to you sometime.
Please do. I'm always glad if I don't have to read, but someone else can tell me just a story.
And she knows this because this has been going on for a long while.
I guess so.
Because the two of you obviously had the teachers together, and you were always the person who showed a lot more ability when it came to physical stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
She fell from her horse twice and then she stopped riding. So, yeah. And
we are just a good mix and match in this case.
Yes, you are.
I will just then slip outside, close the door behind me, and go into my room. Close the door.
And you close the door. And do you go to bed?
Yeah, she will go to bed. She will blow out the candle, put it next to the bed. Probably will stare at the ceiling for a while, and then try to drift off into sleep.
Okay, you drift off into sleep. And after a while, you wake up because you hear voices.
This time she will immediately open at least one eye.
The voices are not coming from your room. They are coming from outside of the room.
Outside
from the
window
the corridor.
or outside?
No, in the house. In the
hallway house. Okay.
Yeah. And you can hear two people talking, one of whom is definitely your father. And he says, and your father says, and I will not have it, and you can't have her, and I want you to leave. And the other voice is a voice you've never heard before. And he says, Dermot, we've been over this so many times. You know that this is how it works. And when you wanted it so badly, you joined the pact so gladly. And you didn't care what it meant. You just wanted to marry. And now your time has come. And now it's her time. You know this. And after her, it will be her son or daughter. And after that, it will be their grandchildren. And it will go on until the end of time. That's what the pact was for. I gave you all you wanted. I gave you power. I gave you the Clan Ranald's land. I gave you the Clan Ranald's wife. All in exchange for one life in every generation. And now I'm going to take what's mine. And at that moment, you hear a scream from Siobhan's room.
I will immediately jump out of bed, just throw open the door, and probably not even knock. I will just jank open the door to her room.
You yank open the door, and you see a man that you've never seen before. He's dressed all in green. Looks like a hunter's uniform to you. Like the cliched hunter. Hide, boots, supple leather, green. He's got a bow over his shoulder. He is anywhere between 30 and 40, clean shaven, quite beautiful, actually. Very, very handsome man. And you see Siobhan, and she is suspended in mid-air, hanging there, and she doesn't seem to be reacting to anything. She's limp, but she's hanging there. And as you yank open the door, he turns around and he says, my, the heir apparent. Well, I have to say, I didn't expect this. And he points to Siobhan. I mean, your father, he gave up his best friend and slit his throat. But no one's told me I was going to get a priestess, and a priestess of the goddess of Varna to boot. I have to say, you have really outdone yourself.
The moment he's still talking on, she would try to tackle him. She would just storm in, really yelling, and just try to tackle him.
Okay, you try to tackle him. He reaches out his hand, and you just run straight into it, and it's like running into a wall of concrete. And he's like, my, why don't you just sit down and we talk about this? Let me introduce myself. I'm Samuel, and I have been looking after you and your family and the riches of this land ever since your father joined me.
Get out, you are not welcome here.
I don't think you get to make this choice, my dear.
I am the new sire of this place. I am not into any kind of weird pact.
So you really think that you have a choice? It
Everyone
is a pact that your
has a
father
choice.
entered into on behalf of every single person in his line.
He can't do that because every line has to decide. Whatever he did, it's not on for me.
Do
Get
you really
out.
think so?
I
Do
do.
you really think so?
There's the door. Get out and let my friend go. She is not part of this.
Well, that's what you say. He promised me that everyone in his line would make his sacrifice.
I'm not sacrificing her or anyone. And even if I have to sacrifice, I will decide who. And it's not her. Let her go.
She falls to the ground in a heap, and he says, you are really a chip of the old block, aren't you? I mean, your father was hot-headed in his day. I mean, you should have seen him. He and this friend of his had sworn each other that they would be like brothers. They would not get married. They would spend all their lives together, going off on adventures. And then in comes that lady. What was her name? Jacintha. Jacintha, yes, indeed. She was pretty. I mean, everyone looked at her. She was like with her olive skin and her dark eyes. I mean, she wasn't from around here. She was from Crisea, I think. She was a real looker. And of course, she fell in love with your father's friend, Ruari. And Ruari just gave up on everything that they had ever discussed. And then your father was jealous. He was green with jealousy. And he was in love with Jacintha as well, but Jacintha wouldn't hear any of it. And then one day, he was in the woods, crying his eyes out, wondering how he could bring the two lovers apart and have everything for himself. And I was hunting. and I heard him crying. And oh, he was going on about, and he was beating his chest, and oh, woe is me. And, well, unfortunately, the gods weren't listening, but I was. And so he told me everything. And I told him, well, that's not a problem at all. You want Jacinta, you can have her. You want the lands, you can have them. The only thing that I ask, and it's not that much, is that you sacrifice your little friend Rory. I mean, you don't like him anyway anymore. I mean, you want to take his girl, you want to take his money, you want to take his land, you want to destroy his clan. So, you might just as well kill him. It's going to be a mercy killing as far as I'm concerned, and probably as far as Rory is concerned too. And you know what? He was so quick to agree. And since then, every single time a new sire or siress ascends to the throne, I'm here, and I'm going to get my sacrifice, and I'm going to make sure that nothing ever assails you. So, a priestess is definitely something really special. I can feel her power even now. It's going to be so interesting to talk to her.
As I said, she's not part of this.
And what are you going to do to stop me? Exactly.
I will figure something out.
Really? Oh, well. I
sure
guess you have 3 days, because as soon as you take the mantle... And regardless, don't even start with me. Don't say, oh no, I'm not going to take the mantle. It doesn't quite work that way. I'm going to get her anyway in 3 days. If you don't take the mantle, I'm going to take you as well. So then I have 2 people that I can talk to. And this place is damp. The place where I live is actually hot as hell. And we're going to have a very nice time in eternity. And you can meet Rory, the person your father loved so dearly, the man you never met. He's still there. A little bit charred, but he's still there. And I will see you shortly. You have 3 days. See you then. And he vanishes.
Or probably just yell out in frustration and will run over to Siobhan and
She
probably
is
shake her softly.
Very shallowly, and she... What was that? Ow, my head!
I'm sorry he dropped you. Let me help you up.
Who dropped me? What?
Demon?
There was... I remember waking up because a man I'd never seen before suddenly appeared next to my bed, and I was frightened because he had a bow and arrows. He was not of your clan.
No, she will probably made a lot of noise.
You hear nothing. Nobody's stirring in the house. It's totally quiet.
Why is no one coming after all the screaming we did?
What screaming? I didn't hear anything. I just
screamed.
Blacked out.
Yeah, you screamed before you blacked out. If not, I wouldn't have come over.
What happened?
She will close the door. She will sit down next to her friend on the bed. First of all, the guy in here, his name is Samuel, and he's definitely not a good person. I would, with the little knowledge I have about this, he's the devil, a demon, something like that.
Are you sure he said the name Samuel?
He did. He introduced himself politely after I yelled at him.
You yelled at Samuel?
He was holding you up there, and he was talking about that he's very happy with you as a sacrifice.
He would be.
He said you are powerful.
I'm not, my goddess is, but he would love me as a sacrifice.
He said that my father went into a pact with him because my mother was not in love with him, but with
Rory.
brewery. And
Your father was a warlock?
he was jealous as hell. He was out in the woods mad, and Samuel came to him and offered him, you will get all the wealth, you will get all the land, you will get all the clan, you will also get the girl. You just have to kill your best friend, and probably in just little addition, you will curse your whole ancestry with that, because everyone in your line will have to do that.
Your father entered into a pact.
That's what Samuel said. Before I went in here and heard you scream, I heard my father out about talking
so much sense now.
to someone, and he was discussing in retrospective, now that I talked basically to Samuel, was that the voice that I heard my father talking to?
Yeah.
He was talking to Samuel. They were discussing that Samuel was there to take what was his, and that was my mother and my brother, I suspect. My father was arguing against it, that it wasn't meant like that. They were talking about a pact as well. What on earth did my father do?
It makes sense now. He was wearing hunter's garb. Samuel presents himself as the Green Hunter.
He said, I have 3 days.
It means I have 3 days.
Or us both, because he said if I'm not taking the mantle, he will take me as well. Then the clan is without lead.
You must absolutely take the mantle. You cannot let the clan suffer. You cannot let the clan die. You have to take the mantle.
The thing is,
there is no way.
If I take it, you might be the one sacrificed. I'm not sacrificing you. It's not. You shouldn't. You are one of the good ones. After me, there is no one to come anyhow, because with what I know now, there's no chance on earth that there will be an heir.
But then the clan will end as well. If there is no heir, then the pact will break, but the clan will end.
Is it maybe a better option than cursing whoever follows?
Well, when you take the mantle, you probably have many years in which to prepare the clan for its demise. Well, I suppose I will have to. I have 3 days. There was so much I was going to do.
She will grab her hands. Tomorrow, I don't care about the things I have to do. Tomorrow we will go to the Priestess of Death. We need to find out a way how to stop this pact. We both did not sign anything. And how on earth can he just randomly pick who is the sacrifice? For my father, I get what the sacrifice was, because he was basically in the way. But he's just cherry picking now. That can't be the way.
He looked into your heart.
You are one of the closest, that's obvious.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that he can randomly pick you. I'm not giving up like that. There must be ways to go against this. Pacts can be broken. Always.
We can try.
That's the only thing we can do.
We can try.
The only question is if I have to involve Duncan tomorrow morning, because he needs to keep the things running and preparing. But he has to know that I'm not around because I have more important things to do. He will be devastated when he hears what my father did.
Well, if you find a way, he needn't know. You could tell no one. If you talk to a priest, they are sworn to secrecy just like I am. What gets told to a priest is always told in confidence. I mean, Samuel is evil incarnate. He is not just a demon. He is the demon.
Well, he said his place is much warmer and crisper and hotter. Basically hell. Now I know what he meant.
Well, I mean, he has disciples all over Alba. He trains witches. They follow him. They sometimes don't know who he is until it's too late, but some of them enter into pacts with him.
He's pretty and charming, I have to say. He was calm as ice.
Well, they do say that the Green Hunter is a very nice man when you get to know him first.
Obviously, because he wants to lure you into a pact. You don't do that by being
I guess not.
aggressive. You need to be charming, because if not, people won't. I don't get why I know people that are in love to stupid things. At least I heard so. I can't say that for myself. He really did a pact to get my mother. And he killed his best friend out of jealousy. That is the ground for what I'm taking over. I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not worthy of this with everything that my father did. Someone else should. Aren't there ways that someone else can step in and take over when I'm not fit for the job?
You have no brothers or sisters that could take over, and if they did, then Samuel would just take whatever they love. It's just the pact that it's the pact. The only way you could change it would be to break the pact. And unfortunately, that is not something that I know anything about, but I'm pretty sure we can find someone who can help us. I will help you try and break the pact, because I don't want to go to hell. At least not now.
You will definitely not go alone. I will not let you go like this.
You do know what it means to go to hell. It'll be forever. There is no way out.
It will be hell
torment.
here if I lose you anyhow, so it would be my fault. So, well, literally it would be my father's fault, but still.
But obviously your father is trying to make things right. He is here. You said you heard them argue. You said you saw him earlier. He was trying to help you. He was trying to warn you. It doesn't sound like he's fine with this.
Well, it seems like now at least we know who he was afraid of. And it seems like Samuel was here because it was time for my father to give his life. And honestly, well deserved. Who does a pact? I'll have to talk to Duncan tomorrow if there's any option on Earth that gives the chance that someone else takes over the clan. That is not my... I don't have a brother or sister, so that wouldn't be an option. There must be any other way.
Well, if the heir apparent does not take the mantle, the clan is dissolved, and you know what that means. These people will not be looked after by whoever takes over the lands. As far as I can tell, did you tell her everything about Clan Ranald? How he took the lands and everything?
Yeah.
Well, Clan Ranald is no more. Unless you want everyone that you've grown up with to go that way. But maybe there is hope. Maybe we can find a way with the help of the gods. Pretty much you and I will not be able to do anything by ourselves, but with the help of the gods, there may be a way. I don't know anything about demons. My goddess doesn't deal with them. She's opposed to them, as you know.
Well, maybe she's able to help, at least that we can keep you safe.
Well, I mean, if I ever see a demon, I can do something, but I don't know if I'm strong enough for Samuel. I doubt it. But if it's a lesser demon, then yes, my goddess has given me ways to deal with them. Maybe they will help. It depends. But maybe tomorrow we should... Maybe we could even look at the sacred books. Maybe there is something. They're in the church.
I know.
So how about we just go there tomorrow and we just look at them and we talk to the priest.
Let's do that. And afterwards, if they can't help, the priestess of death, the next on the list.
All right, then we shall do this. You will just have to think of a way of telling Duncan that for the next 3 days you will not be available. Can you not go out on a long hunting trip or something? How about you say you need to hunt dinner for the feast?
I doubt he would leave me go alone. I would get company.
Oh well, if you say no, you know what the answer will be. He will obey.
But people will see when we go to the church.
That's where this idea of dressing differently and wearing a cloak with a hood comes in.
Okay.
You just have to take the horse right away and then just double back without the horse. You can leave him at the shrine. Near the crypt, nothing's going to happen there. Nobody ever goes there. You know that. It's only the family that goes there, and the only family left is you.
I can't leave him out there on his own. If the wolves are there, I can't.
Then say you're going to go snaring. Then you don't need a horse.
I will think of something.
And I will try and think of something too.
I'm really sorry you're getting pulled into this.
For once, I'm sorry too.
I don't know what got into my father to even have the idea to fall for this insanity. If it would have been just him. But this killed my mother, this killed my brother, and this is, in the end, cursing everyone after him.
I don't think he actually believed it was going to come to this.
He should know better. There are enough stories and warnings out there about this. But well, he didn't. And now we have to pay for his stupidity.
I truly believe your father is trying to set things right.
Well, it's too late for that. He can't do anything.
Who knows?
He's dead.
But maybe he can help. When he comes to you, try to be forgiving.
Not sure I can be. We will see. I doubt he will show up. Scared as he is.
You never know. He's scared, but he also loves you deeply, more than anything in the world.
Ashen will just stand up and I will see you tomorrow morning.
I'll see you tomorrow morning. Try to get some sleep. And she also, she's already in bed, so she just basically blows out the candle and...
I will close the door, I will go over to my room.
And then you hear a noise, and you can hear that she's actually putting something in front of the door from the inside. And then she obviously climbs back into bed. She's not taking any chances.
I think Ash would... I don't know if there's something like a morning gown or a coat she could pull over for more chilly days,
there is
something like
enough.
that.
There is enough like that. Yes.
She would put that on. She would as silently as possible close her door.
Mm-hmm.
And she would go downstairs
Mm-hmm.
into the great hall.
Yeah, into the hall where the banquet table
Yeah.
is. Mm-hmm.
And she would sit down on the chair.
Okay. Yes. On the chair.
On the chair that she hasn't sat in, probably as a small child, because she didn't know better. It was Dad's place, so it was nice to sit.
Mm-hmm.
But she learned quite quickly that is not her place. She would sit there, probably pulling her legs up,
Mm-hmm.
and the candle on the table in front of her. And she would just be staring into the candle, and she would try to make sense out of all of this and trying to see if there's anything that she could come up with that would help. But she would circle always back to, why did he do this?
As you think about this, and especially about the why, your eyes wander and they come to rest on a painting. It shows the sire and his wife, your father and mother. And in this painting, you see captured the epitome of love between two people.
Which feels completely wrong now for her, because this is not real. It was never real. It's just wrong. She would just stare at it, and she will feel a lot of pity and sorrow for her mother, more than before, even. Because now she knows that her death was forced, and that she basically was tricked into this marriage and into this love. There's a lot of anger towards her father, a lot of anger at the moment. And she will sit down there, probably until the early morning hours.
Mm-hmm.
She would try to get up and out before basically the house awakes, because it would be weird for her sitting down there.
Yes.
But she would sit there for a long, long while. She would not sleep this night, because there's no way she would close an eye on whatever happened today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you kind of know when the house will start to stir, because you can see even, like the sun is slowly kind of like there is some light. And you get up from the chair, you walk up to your room, and you sit down or lie down. And pretty much half an hour later or so, you can hear people walking around, you can hear people stirring. And then it's, that in about an hour's time, breakfast will be ready if you want it. You just have to let someone know that you're now ready to eat, and it will just be put out on the table for you.
She was thinking about, would she know who has the key to the crypt?
Oh, Duncan would definitely have a key to he would have a key to your mother's room, he would have a key to the crypt, he would have a key to everything. And they are essentially, you could call him your key holder, because as soon as you demand a key, he will give it to you, because they are rightly yours. Rightfully yours, I should say.
She will take a moment because she knows hot-headedly she knows what she wants to do, but she knows it will stir a lot of questions and trouble. She would just talk to herself and say, we have to focus on the main thing first. Then we clean up. And she would go down and see if she can find Duncan. Probably also looking into the kitchen quickly.
Yeah. Duncan is actually not in the kitchen, but it's easy to spot him because he's in the middle of the yard, and he is talking to a man, maybe in his 20s, and as you approach, he says, "Oh, my lady, how are you this morning? I hope you slept well."
Thank you. Could I have a word with you, Duncan?
Of course, my lady. And he turns around and he says, and be quick about it. Inform the weavers that we have a guest here who will be selling dyes and that they should be here at the 10th hour, and he will show them his wares. And the guy runs off, and he turns to you and he says, "Milady, I'm sorry, I just wanted to finish this. How can I help you?"
Don't be sorry. I know it's a very weird request, and it will cause trouble and extra work for you as well, but I will have to leave.
You will have to leave? But
to
the
sort
ceremony.
out some business. I will be back for the ceremony, but in between I will be out.
Milady, is there anything I can do? I mean, all of your business should not be a problem, and it should definitely not interfere with you taking the mantle.
Well, sadly, it's interfering, so I need to clarify it first. So I
Is
can
there anything
take it.
I can help you with?
Just keep everything running.
Of course.
If someone asks, I'm off on a personal matter that needs clarification before I do the ceremony. I'm sorry to leave you like this, but it's urgent.
Well, forgive me for asking this question, but as the steward, I must. Have you exchanged vows with someone?
No, don't worry about that. It's honestly worst. It's a matter of life and death.
He blanches. Because you're being so earnest, he is now, are you ill?
No, but a friend of mine is in danger, and linked to that, I am in danger as well. And we will sort this out. You can't help, honestly. I'm really sorry. It basically came to my final attention yesterday, and I had to think about what to do. I promise I will try to be back in time. I won't let the clan be on their own.
Well, it is not my place to question your actions, my lady. Everything will be ready when you return. The invitations to the other sires and the laird will go out today.
Perfect.
And they will be here in 3 days' time. Good. At 8 o'clock at night precisely, for you to take the mantle at 10 before the gods.
I will be there, so God will.
He looks at you very concerned and also very puzzled. He is really out of his depth because obviously your father never had such issues. The issues were more, oh, I'm going to war, I may not come back.
I'm also quite sure he can see that she definitely has not slept well, if at all. Mm-hmm. She has rings under her eyes, and she's quite straight. She knows what she wants to do, so it's basically like no discussion. But yeah, he would be a total right to be worried. Thank you for everything. And then she would just turn around and would go back into the kitchen and would be like, if I could have a quick breakfast, that would be lovely.
Milady, breakfast will be served in the hall, of course. You don't have to come down to the kitchen. You're not a little girl anymore.
Thank you, but if you could be quick about it, I have to leave. I have some business to attend to.
Okay, Tabitha, takes a moment. She's dealing with it quite well. She is probably used to you being you, and not. Yeah, well.
Also, I'm quite sure Siobhan will join me. Just maybe put two. You know, why am I trying to tell you how to do breakfast? You know it better than I do. Thank you so much. And she will just go off, and she will probably turn around again, just in case I haven't said it enough. Thank you so much, and for everything you've done for us so far. And then she would turn around without waiting for an answer and would go up to Siobhan.
And you hear her say, just like her mother. Just like her mother. Unpredictable, but I like that.
And I would knock at Siobhan's door.
Come.
She will just peek in.
Siobhan is clad in a brown tunic over a pair of leather riding trousers. She is wearing high boots, and she has her little shield and her not so little sickle. And she says, I don't think that my gown is going to help me where we're going. So I've decided to come prepared. And she lifts both of them up. And you haven't seen her wear them in a very long time.
This outfit definitely is not as... Yeah, it's definitely a better choice. I just talked to Duncan. I just told him I had to deal with business, matter of life and death. And I will be back for the ceremony, but until then he needs to keep everything running. He was obviously not happy and he's worried, but that's all I can tell him. Should we still get a breakfast before we leave?
The breakfast is the most important meal of the day, she says, and she pushes you out the door and she says, go.
You should have breakfast as well.
Well, I'm having breakfast. I'm not going to die on an empty stomach or go to hell on one.
Okay.
And you two go down to the kitchen.
Yeah.
You have a lovely breakfast. It's actually very filling. There is porridge for those who like it, and then there's other stuff for those who don't.
On the way before we go down, I would just pick any kind of servant. It sounds horrible, but
footman.
Just to see footman to see. I need garments, normal garments.
Milady, of course, there are your dresses no longer... Yes, you have lost a lot of weight, haven't you?
Not a dress. I need something, preferably more trousers and up. Maybe like hunter's outfit or something else that is feasible for outside.
That is not becoming for the Cyrus of the clan, is it?
It's just...
Surely. All right. She bows and she says,
I need
yes,
them in an hour in my room.
I'm truly sorry. I've just... Of course.
Thank you.
And she runs away. You see that for them it's also kind of like weird.
It's weird, yeah.
There has not been really a handover, it all happened really suddenly, and then you popped up after 3 years of absence, so they're still trying to reconcile the person who hasn't changed outwardly as much, and who was a young girl when she left, and now she's suddenly the leader of the clan. And she says, and she turns around, she says, I will put something in your room. It will be there in half an hour at the latest. I will find something.
Thank you kindly,
my lady. And she storms off.
I will go down to breakfast then.
Okay, there is breakfast. It's good, filling, plenty of stuff: bread, honey, butter, cheese.
I will not sit in a chair. I will sit probably opposed to Siobhan, just on another chair, just having breakfast.
Yeah, and you have breakfast, and then after about half an hour or so, or whatever, however long you take, you can go back to your room. And when you do this, you actually find hunter's clothes, which are a little bit wide, simply because they're men's clothes, but it works. I mean,
she will just basically, Siobhan, should we just leave separately and meet at the church?
Sure, not a problem. I'll go first. You know where
Okay.
it is?
Yeah, I do.
Good.
I assume she does.
Yes.
She should
Siobhan is
know the
just making a
place.
point that you weren't the person to go to church very often.
Blankly ignoring that. And yeah, Ashley would just change clothing, would strap in her one-handed sword, her long
Hmm.
sword, her bow, because Hunter definitely would have a bow, and she feels quite comfortable with her bow.
And you're quite good at using it as well.
And then she would leave, and she would try to sneak out. She would probably, the moment she steps outside, she would have a coat with a hood and would just try to move outside
Hmm.
without talking to anyone and trying not to be seen. I'm quite sure a few people will see her, but
Well, you can. We can roll on this.
oh,
Let's
then
see
let's
if
roll
people.
on this, because
Let's.
she would really like that no one sees her.
Okay. Okay. So what you could do is you could da, 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 da. Do you have any of these? No, you don't. You could choose either. Well, you could choose yeah, talent, whatever that is in English. Subterfuge. It's kind of like that, because that's
Yeah, a
what you're
bit
doing. You're pretending to be
subterfuge.
someone
Yeah.
else. Yeah. Okay, and then we will just, for everyone else, we will just roll a
So
normal.
it's again a +6
For this,
on
it's
a
actually a
d20.
+3,
+3.
because and then
And I
everybody
need to
else.
get a 20.
Yeah. And everyone else isn't seeing you either.
Good. Because
So
I rolled a 2, so I was far, far
okay,
away
so
from
you
being
fail, but
seen.
everybody else fails
Failed as
too. So
well.
people do notice someone walking, but they don't recognize who
Okay.
you are. So yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I will take a walk towards the church, but I will try to basically stay off the official roads. I will
What you
try to
can do
go.
is you can actually, go into, as it were, dich in die Büsche schlagen if you so choose, and then
Yeah,
basically
she
just
will
take
just
the little bit of a longer way
the
around.
nature route,
Mhm, yeah, exactly, the scenic route.
as a
Whereas, of
hunter
course,
would do.
yeah, whereas Siobhan would probably have gone directly, because people, she's not trying to pretend who she isn't herself. But then again, for a priestess to go to church is like for the butcher to go to the stables to get an animal. So and what you can do is you arrive at the church. The church itself is also a stone building. So there are essentially two stone buildings in the area: your hall and the church.
Okay.
The church itself is a church for all the gods. So there's a pantheon, and each god has a has a statue in that church. So it's not dedicated to just one, but they are all present.
Okay.
So you can go inside.
Yeah, I will. Another deep breath before stepping inside. And she will just open the door, she will step inside, and she will look around if Siobhan is there.
Siobhan is there, and she waves at you. She says, "I'm over here."
I will just quietly walk over to her, just whispering, I don't think someone recognized me.
And she looks at you and says, "Well, yeah, I doubt they would." Well, so I think we should look at some of the books about the demons.
Let's try and see if there's anything about pacts be broken.
Yeah. And you look, and there's actually quite a lot to read. And it takes you several hours. I mean, you're probably sitting there for about 3 or 4 hours, and some of this stuff is really... Some of this stuff is in a language that you actually don't recognize. Other stuff is in Alba, is in Albi, so you can easily read it. And the information is more like, basically, if somebody offers you a pact, you should not enter into it, and it's hellfire and damnation and blah, blah, blah. So the church is very much against working with demons in any shape or form.
That I can totally understand and
Yeah.
say yes to, but not helpful.
So as you look through stuff, you come across a reference to a book whose title you also can't read, but it says that pacts are described in it, and you show it to Siobhan, and she
Yeah,
says, "Oh yeah, I can actually read that. It's Altoquin." And she looks around, and this book actually exists in this library, which is a miracle, but the
unbelievable,
gods are
but
with you.
yay.
And she says, "Oh yes, this is really about pacts. It's actually this is a how to enter into pacts book. I can't believe that this is actually available."
The question is there also reference how to exit or end a pact? I don't want to choose a new one.
She
Would that
looks.
help to make a pact with a new one?
You are not making a pact with Samuel.
No. It's a question, is there another one I can make a pact with that would break the one with?
Are you crazy?
Yes, I'm seeing ghosts and the devil himself.
No, you're not entering into any pact with any demon.
Don't be afraid, I really don't want to. That would feel like
Very
a
good.
horrible
Or you
idea.
will never hear the end of it, because I will haunt you until the day you die. So now give me some peace. And she says, "It's been a while since I've read this language." And she just sits there, and she goes, and you can see that she's basically, even like, sometimes she uses her finger and she moves it from left to right, and then sometimes she hesitates. She's like, "Oh my God, is that subjunctive?"
I would just quietly sit next to her, probably sitting on my hands, just waiting.
And after a while, she says, "Oh, this is interesting. Aha. Okay, so this is a rough translation, okay? So bear with
Mm-hmm.
me. Pacts cannot be broken." Oh, that's not what we wanted to hear, is it? Pacts cannot be broken unless the person who entered into the pact and their actions are laid bare for everyone to see, and retribution and restitution is sought from the victim of the pact. Okay, the victim of the pact. That would be Rory, wouldn't it? Now he's dead. And
He's
also,
in hell with Samuel, at least he said so.
but
Crispy.
where's his body?
That's a good question.
Where was he buried?
I don't know, but we can try to find out.
But I mean, if I read this correctly, it says here, all the deeds of the pact bearer will have to be laid bare. It means that you will have to tell everyone what your father did. And retribution and restitution, it means that you would have to give the lands back to the Clan Ranalds.
But there is no one of Clan Reynolds.
Maybe you just need to take this figuratively and just leave the land to whoever is farming it, and they become independent.
Let's talk to some people and see if there is maybe someone linked to the Reynolds, even just not
But I
direct
mean,
line.
would you really tell everyone about what your father did? It'll destroy his reputation forever. It may
He,
destroy your line. They may choose a different sire. They may not choose you after all this.
the only thing that's important for me is that the people here are kept safe and that you are safe. We have to break this. And honestly, my father brought this on all of us. The only way. would be to do exactly what is in there. And best case would be we can find someone who has some kind of link to the Ranald family, and we can talk to them that they are willing to take this, and honestly also willing to take care of the people I will step out and leave. I don't need this. We survived well outside. I just want the people safe.
I will ask if I can take this book, even just for a couple of days. I think it would be good to have it, because there is still so much that I haven't read. And some of these things are hazy at best, so I will have to spend more time with it. But I think we should also start to work at least on... I think if we could at least find his body, we could see how it was buried. Maybe we could start by putting him into sacred ground. That would at least be part of the restoration. If we could prove that he was murdered, that would help as well, because from what you were telling me earlier, he just vanished.
He was. They never found his body, as it seems.
So if we could find his body, maybe that's the first step.
Oh God, I need to talk to my father. He's the only one who knows where the body is. Because Samuel will not tell us.
No, Samuel will not tell us. However, I wonder if Samuel knows at all.
Not sure he does. Best case, he doesn't.
Then we should try and not tell him.
I want to find the old man Duncan talked to. Maybe he knows someone that is still linked to the clan. Maybe he knows some words. If not, there's always the ruins of the Roland family. We can have a look around there. Maybe the gods are willing to help.
Maybe they are. Just wait a second. And she closes the book and she goes away. And you can hear her talk. Obviously, she's not the only priestess. So she's talking to somebody else. And she says, you can hear her say that she's found this book and she would like to take it away. But she will return it. It is very important. And he doesn't seem to object to this. And she comes back and she says, yes, I've got the book. We can go.
Okay. We'll put... Honestly, the whole time I'm quite sure she sat there with the hoodie up because she doesn't want to be seen. Although, honestly, I'm quite sure the priests know that we two are friends, so they suspect maybe, but it's a question
they cannot talk to anyone.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They are sworn to secrecy. Okay, good. And with that, you leave the church, and with that, we finish for today because it's 11:30 already.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we will see how you fare trying to break a pact that you had no chance of saying no to. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. And we're still new to the system.
It's amazing.
Well, we hope you enjoyed it. I'm certainly having fun with definitely the background. Whether the system itself will hold up, we'll see once we enter into the first fight, because it's basically using miniatures or Roll20 and moving around, so we'll see what we do with that. But at least there is a lot of story that you can tell.
The world definitely is interesting, and the setting around, so it's fun. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy and have a lovely rest of the day. And also happy holidays, because you'll be seeing this pretty much around the holiday season.
Then happy holidays.
Bye.
Go.